The sun has begun its slow, inevitable descent behind the western walls of the fortress. There is no urgency in the way the light fades. It is a gradual surrender of the day, turning the sky from a pale, washed-out blue to a soft, bruising shade of violet and gray. Here, in the permanent military camp, the Castra, everything is built upon the principle of order. The stone walls, thick and cool to the touch, hold the heat of the afternoon for a brief hour before the evening chill settles into the mortar. Imagine the geometry of the ground. The roads are straight. They cross each other at perfect right angles, creating a grid of predictability that stretches from the northern gate to the southern gate. There is a deep sense of calm in this repetition. You do not need to look around to know where you are. Every street, every barrack block, looks exactly like the one before it. It is designed so that a man can walk with his eyes half closed and still find his way. The air is still. The dust that was kicked up during the midday drills has long since settled back onto the hard-packed earth. It coats the cobblestones in a fine, powdery layer that muffles the sound of footsteps. Listen to the rhythm of the camp slowing down. During the day, there is the shout of centurions, the clang of iron on wood, the heavy thud of marching feet. But now, as the shadows lengthen across the parade ground, those sounds have evaporated. They are replaced by quieter, more intimate sounds. The low murmur of voices, the scuff of leather against stone, the distant, rhythmic sound of a broom sweeping a threshold. You do not need to pay attention to these details. They are just the background texture of a time long past. Let your mind drift over the image of the stone walls. They are solid. They are unmoving. They have stood there for decades, and they will stand there for decades more, silent witnesses to the quiet routine of the evening. A soldier, let us simply call him a legionary, sits on a wooden bench outside his barrack room. He is done for the day. There is no battle to fight. There is no enemy on the horizon. There is only the long, expansive stretch of the evening ahead of him. He leans back against the rough plaster of the wall. The wall is cooling down, and the sensation against his tunic is grounding. He breathes in. The air smells of dry earth, of unburnt lamp oil, and the faint, savory scent of grain boiling in water. It is a simple smell, a boring smell. It is the smell of safety and routine. Slowly, very slowly, he begins the process of removing his sandals, the caligy. This is not a quick action. It is a ritual of comfort. He lifts one foot and rests it on his opposite knee. The sandal is made of thick, durable leather, cut into intricate strips that cage the foot. The leather is warm from the day's wear. It is stiff with dust. He reaches down to the leather thongs that bind the sandal to his ankle. His fingers move with practiced lethargy. There is no rush. He unties the first knot. It comes loose with a soft FWP sound. Then the second knot. The tension in the leather releases. He peels the straps back, one by one. The air touches the skin of his foot, cool and relieving. He pulls the sandal free. The heavy sole, studded with iron hobnails, makes a solid clunk as he sets it down on the wooden walkway. He repeats the process with the other foot. Lift, untie, loosen, remove, place. The symmetry of the action is hypnotic. Now his feet are bare, resting on the smooth wood of the bench. He wiggles his toes, stretching them out, letting the fatigue of standing guard drain away into the floorboards. Inside the barrack room, the contubernium, the light is dim. The room is small, designed to house 8 men, but right now, it feels spacious and quiet. The other men are there, but they are moving with the same slow, tired energy. There is no loud conversation, just the shuffling of bodies and the rustle of straw. The room is divided into 2 sections. The front area is for equipment. The back area is for sleeping. The soldier stands up from the bench and walks into the front section. He picks up a rag. It is a piece of old wool, saturated with oil and lanolin. It is time to clean the armor. This is the most mundane part of the day and perhaps the most peaceful. He takes his helmet, the Gallia, from the shelf. The metal is cool and smooth. It is heavy, a comforting weight in his hands. He sits back down. He applies the oily rag to the bronze brow guard. He rubs in small, circular motions. Swish, swish, swish. The motion is repetitive. It requires no thought. He watches the oil darken the metal, removing the specks of dust, leaving a dull, clean sheen. He moves to the cheek guards. He cleans the hinge. He cleans the neck guard. Every curve of the metal is familiar to his fingers. He knows every dent, every scratch. He does not think about how they got there. He only cares about the oil and the rag. The lamp in the corner of the room has been lit. It is a small clay lamp, sitting in a niche in the wall. The flame is tiny, a single point of orange light that wavers slightly in the draft. It casts long, soft shadows that stretch across the floor and up the walls. The shadows sway gently, like seaweed in a calm ocean. Focus on the flame. It is steady. It burns the olive oil slowly. The smell of the burning oil is heavy and warm. It fills the small room, masking the smell of the leather and the sweat. It is a drowsy scent, one that signals the brain that the time for alertness has passed. The soldier moves on to his body armor, the larica segmentata. These are strips of iron, articulated on leather straps. He does not take the armor apart. He simply wipes down the metal plates. The iron makes a quiet clinking sound as the plates shift against each other. It is a sound like wind chimes, but deeper, duller. Clink, rub, clink, rub. Outside, the sky has turned a deep indigo. The first stars are beginning to appear, pinpricks of white in the vast, dark canvas. The camp is settling into the night watch. Somewhere far off near the gates, a trumpet sounds, but it is not a call to arms. It is the signal for the end of the day. The notes are long and mournful, stretching out over the rooftops, fading into the silence of the surrounding hills. The soldier places his armor back on the wooden rack. He arranges it carefully. The helmet goes on top. The armor hangs below it. The belt, the cingulum with its hanging leather strips and metal studs, is hung beside it. The equipment hangs there like a hollow man, standing guard while the real man rests. He walks to the back of the room, to the sleeping quarters. The floor here is covered in mats. There is a low hearth in the center, where a small fire of charcoal is glowing. It does not give off much flame, only a steady, radiating heat that warms the stones around it. A pot sits on the grate above the charcoal. Inside, the evening meal is simmering. It is a porridge made of wheat, water, and perhaps a little bacon fat or salt. It is thick and gray. Bubbles slowly rise to the surface of the porridge and burst with a soft plop. Plop, pause, plop. The soldier picks up a wooden spoon. He stirs the pot. The spoon scrapes against the bottom of the clay vessel. The motion is slow. There is no need to eat quickly. The night is long. He watches the steam rise from the pot. It spirals up towards the ceiling, disappearing into the shadows of the rafters. He serves himself a bowl. The wooden bowl is smooth from years of use. He sits on the edge of his bunk. The bunk is a simple wooden frame with a mattress stuffed with straw. The straw rustles as he sits. It smells of dried grass and fields. He eats. The food is warm and filling. It has very little taste, just the simple, earthy flavor of the grain. He chews slowly, swallows, takes another spoonful. The warmth of the food spreads through his chest, making his eyelids feel heavy. Around him, his tent mates are doing the same. One is mending a tunic, pushing a needle through the fabric with slow precision. Another is lying on his back, staring at the ceiling, hands folded behind his head. No one feels the need to speak. The silence is comfortable. It is a shared silence, born of routine and exhaustion. The light from the oil lamp flickers again. The shadows dance. The soldier finishes his meal and sets the bowl down. He leans forward, resting his elbows on his knees, and rubs his face with his hands. The skin of his palms is rough, but the gesture is soothing. He massages his temples, closing his eyes. He listens to the sounds of the camp outside the walls of the barrack, the footsteps of the night patrol, the slow, measured crunch of boots on gravel. Crunch, crunch, crunch. They are passing by, regular as a heartbeat. They are watching so he does not have to. He is safe here. The walls are high. The gates are barred. The Empire is at peace in this moment. He stands up and moves to the water basin. The water is cool. He splashes it on his face. It drips from his beard, landing on the floor. He dries his face with a rough linen towel. The fabric feels scrubby and clean against his skin. Now it is time to prepare the bed. He fluffs the straw mattress. He uses his fist to beat the straw into a softer shape. Thump, thump. He smooths out the wool blanket. The blanket is scratchy, dyed a dull red, but it is thick and warm. He arranges it carefully, making sure there are no creases. He sits down on the edge of the bed again to remove his tunic. The wool slides over his head. The air of the room feels cooler on his skin now. He folds the tunic into a neat square. He places it at the foot of the bed. Everything has its place. Everything is in order. He lies back. The straw mattress crunches softly, molding to the shape of his back. He pulls the blanket up to his chin. The wool is heavy. It presses down on him, a comforting weight that signals the body to surrender. He stares up at the ceiling. The wooden beams are dark, stained by smoke from the hearth. He traces the grain of the wood with his eyes. The lines flow like rivers, twisting and turning, but always going in the same direction. The fire in the hearth is dying down. The coals are turning from bright orange to a dull, ash-covered red. The heat is gentle. The room is getting darker. The oil lamp is running low on fuel. The flame is smaller now, just a tiny blue and orange speck in the darkness. You can imagine the stillness of the rest of the camp. Thousands of men, all following this same routine. Thousands of sandals placed by thousands of bunks. Thousands of armor sets hanging on racks. A city of sleeping soldiers, breathing in unison. The wind picks up slightly outside. It whistles softly through the eaves of the roof. It is a lonely sound, but not a sad one. It is just the sound of the world turning while the fortress sleeps. A shutter bangs gently against a wall somewhere down the street. Tap, tap, tap. The soldier closes his eyes. He listens to the breathing of the man in the bunk next to him. Slow, deep, rhythmic. It is a contagion of sleep. His own breathing slows down to match it. In, out, in, out. There is nothing left to do today. The lists are checked. The weapons are clean. The food is eaten. The watch is set. The darkness of the room is not absolute. There is a faint glow from the dying embers, painting the room in shades of deep charcoal and black. It is a restful darkness. It is a darkness that wraps around the mind and quiets the thoughts. Somewhere a dog barks, once, twice. Then silence returns. The silence is deeper than before. It feels heavy, like a blanket of velvet draped over the entire world. The soldier's muscles relax. His shoulders drop. His legs feel heavy, sinking into the straw. The tension in his jaw releases. He is drifting. He is floating on the surface of sleep, just waiting to sink under. The image of the grid-like streets of the camp fades from his mind. The straight lines soften. The hard stone walls dissolve into mist. There is only the warmth of the blanket and the slow rhythm of his own heart. The oil lamp flickers one last time and goes out. A thin trail of smoke rises, invisible in the dark, carrying the scent of burnt wick. The room is now completely dark, but it is not scary. It is the darkness of rest. The night has truly begun. Leave the barracks behind for a moment. Step out into the cool evening air again. The path leads away from the sleeping quarters down a gravel road that runs parallel to the western wall. Ahead, there is a building that breathes. You can see it before you hear it. From a low chimney at the back, a steady column of white smoke rises, blending into the dark sky. This is the bathhouse, the thermi. It is the heart of warmth in the stone fortress. While the barracks are cooling down, the bathhouse remains a sanctuary of heat. The building is squat and sturdy, built of red brick and thick concrete. There are no windows at eye level, only small, high openings that let the steam escape. Walk towards the entrance. The wooden door is heavy, swollen slightly from the humidity within. You push it open. The air that hits you is thick and moist. It carries a complex scent: wood smoke, damp stone, olive oil, and unperfumed soap. The sound of the outside world, the wind, the distant guards, is instantly cut off. Here, the world sounds hollow and echoing. You enter the changing room first, the apoditerium. It is a rectangular room lined with wooden benches. Along the walls, at shoulder height, are rows of niches, small cubbyholes built into the stone. This is where the day is shed. A few soldiers are here, moving in slow motion. Watch one of them. He is an older man, his hair graying at the temples. He stands by a bench. He unbuckles his belt. The heavy leather drops to the bench with a muted thud. He unfastens his tunic. He folds it. He does not crumple it. He folds it with the care of a man who owns very little, first in half, then in quarters. He places it in the niche, tucked away safely. The floor here is tiled. Small square tesserae of black and white stone arranged in a simple geometric border. If you look down, you can trace the pattern. A white line, a black line, a white line. It goes on, wrapping around the perimeter of the room. It is a pattern without a beginning or an end, just an endless loop of stone. The soldier moves to the next room. This is the tepidarium, the warm room. There is no water here to bathe in, just warm air. The heat comes from everywhere. It radiates from the walls. It rises from the floor. Underneath the floor, deep below the mosaics, there are hollow spaces where hot air from a furnace circulates. This is the hypocaust. You cannot see the fire, but you can feel its presence. The floor is warm to the touch. If you were to walk barefoot across it, the stone would feel like it has been baking in the sun all afternoon. The soldier sits on a stone bench built into the wall. He leans his head back against the warm plaster. He closes his eyes. This room is designed to acclimate the body, to prepare the heart for the heat that is to come. There is no rush to move to the next room. He might sit here for 20 minutes, maybe 30. The air is heavy. It presses against the skin, slowing down the pulse. Breathing becomes deeper. Inhale the warmth. Exhale the day. He reaches for a small clay flask hanging from a string around his wrist. He uncorks it. It is olive oil. He pours a small amount into his cupped palm. The oil is golden and viscous. It catches the dim light from the oil lamps that hang from the ceiling chains. He begins to rub the oil onto his arms. The motion is long and sweeping, from the wrist to the shoulder, from the shoulder to the wrist. The oil warms up on his skin. It creates a barrier, a glistening sheen that reflects the flickering flames. He moves to his chest, his legs. It is a slow, methodical coating. He is sealing himself in warmth. Listen to the sounds of the room. They are magnified by the vaulted ceiling. A drop of condensation falls from the roof and hits the floor. Drip. A moment later, another one. Drip. A soldier on the other side of the room shifts his weight on the bench. The stone scrapes against his skin. Shhhhk. The soldier stands up. He is gleaming with oil now. He walks through an arched doorway into the caldarium, the hot room. Here, the air changes. It is no longer just warm, it is hot and wet. Steam fills the upper half of the room, swirling in white clouds that drift sluggishly. Visibility is lower here. The figures of other men are just soft outlines in the mist. At the center of the room is a large, circular basin of hot water. The water is still, except for the gentle ripples caused by someone stepping in. The soldier approaches the edge. He tests the water with his toe. It is hot but bearable. He steps in. The water rises to his ankles, his knees, his waist. He sinks down until the water reaches his chin. The heat envelopes him completely. It penetrates the muscles, loosening the stiffness from the march, dissolving the knots in his back. He floats there, weightless. The water is slightly murky, filled with the minerals of the earth. It laps gently against the rim of the basin. Lap, lap, lap. The sound is rhythmically identical to a slow heartbeat. He stays there for a long time. There is no clock on the wall. Time is measured only by the wrinkling of skin and the slowing of thoughts. He looks up at the domed ceiling. Condensation has gathered there in thousands of tiny droplets. They cling to the plaster, defying gravity until one becomes too heavy and falls. He watches a single drop form. It grows larger. It trembles. Then it falls. He tracks it all the way down until it hits the surface of the water near his face. Plip. A tiny circle of ripples expands outward, fading into nothing. After he has soaked enough, he climbs out. He picks up a tool from the side of the basin. It is a strigil, a curved metal scraper made of bronze. The handle is smooth, worn down by years of gripping. He begins the process of cleaning. He presses the curved metal against his oiled skin. He scrapes downward. The strigil collects the oil, the sweat, and the dust of the fortress. It leaves a stripe of clean, pink skin behind. Scrape, he flicks the oil onto the floor. Scrape, flick. The sound is distinct, metal on skin. It is a dry, rasping sound. It is satisfying. He cleans his left arm, then his right. He cleans his back, reaching over his shoulder with a flexibility born of habit. He is shedding the outer layer of the day. Once he is scraped clean, he moves to a smaller basin in the corner. This is the labrum. It holds cold water. He cups his hands and splashes the cold water over his face and neck. The shock is mild, just enough to close the pores. The contrast between the hot air and the cold water is grounding. It reminds him that he has a body. He dries himself with a rough linen towel. He rubs his skin vigorously until it is red and tingling. The lethargy of the bath has set in deep into his bones. His limbs feel heavy, like they are made of lead. Moving feels like an effort, but a pleasant one. He walks back through the warm room, through the changing room. He retrieves his tunic. The fabric feels cool now. He pulls it on. It hangs loosely on his clean, warm body. He puts his belt back on, but leaves it loose. There is no need for a tight fit tonight. He steps out of the bathhouse. The transition is stark. The night air outside is crisp and cold. It bites at his wet hair, but the heat of the bath is trapped inside his core. He feels like a walking furnace, glowing from the inside out. The smoke from the bathhouse chimney is still rising, invisible now against the black sky, blocking out a few stars. The camp is quieter than before. The moon has risen higher, casting long, sharp shadows across the grid of streets. He walks back towards his barrack. His sandals slap softly against the stones. Slap, slap. He is not marching now. He is strolling. There is nowhere to be. The bath has washed away the urgency. He passes the granary, the horium. It is a massive building with raised floors to keep the grain dry. He smells the faint, dusty scent of wheat stored in darkness. It is the smell of survival, of rations that will last through the winter. It is a comforting, abundant smell. He reaches his barrack block. The door is slightly ajar. He pushes it open and enters the dim room again. The fire in the hearth has burned down to embers. The air is still warm and smells of sleeping men. He moves to his bunk. He does not need to light the lamp again. He knows the way by the faint red glow of the charcoal. He sits down. He feels cleaner than he has all day. The oil has left his skin soft. The heat has left his muscles loose. He lies down. The straw mattress receives him. He pulls the heavy wool blanket up. This time, the blanket feels different. It feels like a cocoon. The contrast between the cold air of the room and the heat radiating from his body creates a perfect temperature for sleep. He listens to the wind again. It is picking up, rattling the clay tiles on the roof. Rattle, pause, rattle. It is a distant sound happening to the outside world, not to him. He is safe inside. He closes his eyes. The image of the bathhouse water returns to his mind. The steam swirling, the droplets falling, the endless white and black pattern of the floor tiles. White, black, white, black. His breathing deepens. The day is fully gone. The dirt is gone, the armor is on the rack, the weapon is sheathed. He drifts. Somewhere in the distance, a cartwheel squeaks as it turns a corner, likely the night delivery of firewood for the bathhouse furnace. Squeak, squeak. The sound is rhythmic, slow, and fading away as the cart moves further into the depths of the camp. Fading, fading. High above the sleeping barracks, above the quiet bathhouse and the silent granaries, there is the wall. It is the boundary between the order of the Roman world and the untamed chaos of the night. But tonight, there is no chaos. There is only a vast, unending silence that stretches from the foot of the stone ramparts out to the horizon. A soldier stands on the vallum, the walkway that runs along the top of the defensive wall. He is one of the night watch. His shift began when the last sliver of the sun disappeared, and it will last for 3 hours. This is the first watch, the prima vigilia. It is colder up here. The wind has no obstacles. It sweeps across the open plains, climbs the stone face of the fortress, and brushes against his face. It is a clean, dry wind. It smells of nothing but cold air and distant pine trees. The soldier is wrapped in his heavy cloak, the pinula. It is made of thick, felted wool, dyed a dark, muddy brown. The fabric is dense, almost waterproof, and it hangs heavy on his shoulders. He has pulled the hood up over his helmet. The wool muffles the sound of the wind, creating a soft, rushing noise in his ears, like the sound of the ocean held in a shell. He stands perfectly still. He is resting his weight on one leg, leaning slightly against the stone parapet. The stone is rough. It was cut by hand, chiseled from the quarry miles away, dragged here by oxen, and set in place by men whose names are forgotten. Under his hand, he can feel the texture of the rock. It is cold and gritty. There is a small patch of moss growing in a crack between 2 blocks. It is soft and damp. He runs his thumb over it. Brush, brush. His primary companion is his spear, the pilum. He holds it upright, the butt of the shaft resting on the wooden planks of the walkway. The wood of the shaft is ash. It is smooth, polished by the oil of many hands. It feels solid. The iron tip points upwards, a thin silhouette against the starry sky. He does not grip it tightly. His hand is relaxed, just keeping the weapon balanced. Look out beyond the wall. The landscape is a painting of shadows. There are no lights out there, no fires, no villages, just the rolling shapes of the hills and the dark mass of the forest edge. It is a void, a place where the eyes try to find a shape, a movement, but find nothing. The soldier's eyes scan the darkness slowly, left to right to left. He is not looking for anything specific. He is just watching the emptiness. The lack of movement is hypnotic. A branch sways in the wind half a mile away. He sees it, acknowledges it, and dismisses it. It is just the wind. Inside the camp, behind him, the view is different. From this height, the geometry of the fortress is revealed in perfect clarity. The grid of streets is marked by the faint, warm glow of the lanterns hanging at the intersections. The tents and barracks are dark rectangles, arranged in straight lines. It looks like a board game that has been put away for the night. He can see the headquarters building, the Principia, in the center of the camp. It is a large, dark shape. The standards of the Legion are kept there, locked away in the shrine. They are sleeping too, the golden eagles and the silver hands, resting in the dark. The soldier takes a breath. The air is so cold it feels sharp in his nose. He exhales. A cloud of white mist forms in front of his face. It swirls for a second, catching the faint light from the moon, and then vanishes. He begins to walk. The patrol requires movement, not to find enemies, but to keep the blood flowing. He takes slow, measured steps. The walkway is made of wooden planks laid over the stone earth rampart. The wood is old and hardened. Thud, thud, thud. His boots, the heavy caligy, land with a dull, heavy sound. The hobnails on the soles bite into the wood. The sound is low and rhythmic. It does not echo. It is absorbed by the night. He walks 10 paces. He stops. He turns his head to the left, looking out over the battlements. Nothing. He walks another 10 paces. He stops. He looks to the right into the camp. Nothing. This is the rhythm of the watch. Walk, stop, look, breathe. He reaches the corner tower. It is a square structure that rises slightly higher than the wall. Inside the tower, sheltered from the wind, sits another guard. They do not speak. A nod is enough. A silent acknowledgement that they are both awake, both alive, both waiting for the sand in the hourglass to run out. The soldier leans against the timber frame of the tower doorway. He looks up at the sky. The clouds have cleared completely now. The heavens are a vast dome of black velvet, scattered with diamonds. The Milky Way is a thick band of spilled milk stretching across the zenith. He traces the constellations, the Great Bear, the Hunter. The names do not matter as much as the shapes. They are fixed points. They move across the sky with a slowness that makes the movement invisible. You cannot see them move, but if you look away for an hour and look back, they have shifted. The universe is a giant clock, slowly ticking. He thinks about the time. There is no urgency. The night is divided into 4 watches. He is in the first. There are hours to go before he can return to his bunk, but he is not impatient. Impatience burns energy. Patience preserves it. He settles into the waiting. He shifts his shield, the scutum. It is leaning against the wall next to him. It is a large, curved rectangle of plywood covered in canvas and leather, edged in bronze. It is heavy. He rests his hand on the rim. The bronze is freezing cold. It stings his fingertips, a sharp sensation that keeps him awake. He looks down at the ground outside the wall again. A shadow moves. A fox, a badger. It is small and low to the ground. It scuttles across a patch of lighter grass and disappears into a bush. The soldier watches it go. He does not raise the alarm. It is just a creature of the night going about its business just like him. The wind shifts direction. It comes from the north now, colder than before. He pulls his cloak tighter. He wraps the wool around his chest, trapping his body heat. He tucks his hands into the folds of the fabric. It is a small cocoon of warmth in the vast, cold night. He closes his eyes for a second, just to rest them from the strain of staring into the dark. His hearing sharpens. He hears the creak of the wooden walkway settling as the temperature drops. Kriyak. He hears the gentle flap of a standard or a flag somewhere near the gatehouse. Flap, flap, flap. He hears his own heartbeat, slow and steady in his ears. Thump, thump. Thump, thump. He opens his eyes. The world is exactly as he left it, dark, still, silent. He pushes off from the tower and begins the walk back along his sector of the wall. The repetition is soothing. He knows exactly where the loose plank is. He steps over it. He knows exactly where the stone rises slightly. He adjusts his stride. He is a machine of observation. He is a statue that breathes. Far below, near the granary, a cat walks across the street. It is a small gray shape, barely visible. It stops, licks its paw, and continues. The soldier watches it. In this massive fortress of thousands of men, he and the cat are the only things moving. It feels like a secret they share. The moon is higher now. Its light is pale and silver. It washes out the colors of the world. The red tiles of the roofs look gray. The brown earth looks black. The soldier's own hand, resting on the spear, looks like it is carved from marble. He reaches the end of his patrol route. He turns around. The pivot is slow. He does not spin. He steps around. 1, 2, 3. Now he is facing the other way. He starts the return journey. Thud, thud, thud. The sound of his walking is the metronome of the night. It measures the passing of time better than any clock. Each step is a second gone. Each length of the wall is a minute past. He thinks of his barrack room, the warmth of the charcoal fire, the sound of his messmates snoring. It seems far away, a different world. Up here, there is only the wind and the stars. But the thought of the bed is a warm coal in his mind, something to look forward to. He adjusts the strap of his helmet. It was digging slightly into his chin. He loosens it. The metal cheek guards hang a little looser now. It is better. He leans over the wall again. He spits. The saliva falls, a tiny speck, down into the moat below. He doesn't hear it land. It falls into the darkness and is gone. The solitude is not lonely, it is peaceful. There are no orders being shouted. There is no heavy lifting. There is no marching in formation. There is just standing, just being. He looks at the horizon again. Is that a hint of fog rising in the valley? Perhaps. A thin, white ribbon threading through the trees. It moves slowly like a ghost river. He watches it expand, curl, and drift. It is silent and beautiful in a desolate way. The hourglass in the gatehouse below is turned. He hears the faint sound of the wood clacking against stone as the guard down there flips it. The sand begins to run again. Another hour has passed. He shifts his weight to the other leg. He stretches his neck, rolling his head from side to side. Crack. A small pop in his neck vertebrae. It feels good. He resumes his position, statue still. The wind blows, the stars shine, the wall stands. Nothing happens, and that is the best thing that could happen. The night stretches on, vast and empty, a deep, dark ocean of time that he must simply float upon until the dawn. He takes a deep breath of the freezing air, holds it, and lets it out slowly. Whoosh! And then silence again. Descend now from the high, cold walls. Leave the wind and the stars behind for a moment. Walk down the stone stairs, past the sleeping barracks of the infantry, and head towards the eastern sector of the fortress. Here, the smell of the air changes. The crisp scent of the night mixes with something earthier, warmer, and sweeter. It is the smell of hay, of oats, and of large, resting animals. You are approaching the stables, the stabula. The building is long and low, constructed of timber and daub, with a thatched roof that hangs low over the eaves. The darkness here feels softer, cushioned by the presence of living things. The door to the stable is wide, split in the middle. The bottom half is closed, barred with a thick beam of oak. The top half is open, allowing the air to circulate. Lean over the half door and look inside. The interior is a tunnel of warm shadows. A single lantern hangs from a hook on the central beam, about halfway down the aisle. Its light is weak, casting a honey-colored glow that barely reaches the corners, but it is enough to see the rows of wooden stalls on either side. There are 30 horses in this block, 30 massive, breathing creatures standing in the semi-darkness. The air inside is significantly warmer than the air outside. The collective body heat of the animals acts like a furnace, keeping the chill of the night at bay. Enter the stable. The floor of the central aisle is packed earth, beaten hard by years of hooves and boots. It is swept clean. There is a soft, muffled quality to the acoustics here. The straw that lines the stalls absorbs the sound, making the space feel intimate and enclosed. Walk slowly down the aisle. Listen. Crunch, crunch, crunch. It is the sound of 30 horses eating their evening ration of hay. It is a dry, rhythmic sound, the grinding of molars against dried grass. It is a continuous, rolling noise, like the sound of rain on a roof, but organic and living. Stop at the third stall on the left. Inside stands a bay mare. Her coat is dark, almost black in the dim light, but where the lantern light touches her flank, it gleams with a deep, reddish mahogany shine. She is not asleep yet. She is finishing her meal. Watch her head. She lowers it into the wooden manger. Her velvet lips, soft and prehensile, sort through the stalks of hay. She finds the pieces she likes. She gathers them. She lifts her head slightly. You can hear the intake of breath through her large nostrils. Huff. It is a warm, dusty sound. She chews. Her jaw moves in a slow, circular motion. Side to side, side to side. The muscles in her cheek flex and relax, flex and relax. There is no hurry. The night is long and the hay is plentiful. A cavalryman, a equess, is moving quietly at the far end of the stable. He is the night groom. He is not wearing his armor. He wears a simple, undyed tunic, belted at the waist, and soft leather shoes. His movements are slow and deliberate, designed not to startle the animals. He carries a bucket of water. The water is dark and still. He walks with a steady gait, absorbing the sway of the bucket so that not a single drop spills. Slosh, pause, slosh. He stops at a stall where a gray gelding is resting. The horse has finished eating and is standing with one hind leg cocked, resting the hoof on the toe. This is how horses sleep while standing up. The mechanism in their legs locks, allowing their muscles to relax completely without falling over. The soldier lifts the bucket. He pours the water into the stone trough. Glug, glug, glug. The sound of the pouring water is heavy and liquid. It breaks the dry texture of the crunching hay. The water swirls in the trough, creating small whirlpools that spin and then vanish. The surface settles. It becomes a black mirror, reflecting the wooden beams of the roof. The soldier reaches out and places a hand on the horse's neck. The neck is thick and muscular, warm to the touch. He pats it gently. 2 slow strokes. Pat, pat. The horse does not move. It knows the touch. It is a touch of safety. The horse lets out a long, shuddering breath, blowing air through its loose lips. The lips vibrate with a soft brrrppp sound. It is the sound of total relaxation. The soldier moves on. He picks up a pitchfork. It is a wooden tool with 2 tines. He uses it to push scattered straw back into the center of the aisle. He is tidying up, but with no urgency. He pushes a pile of golden straw. It slides across the dirt floor with a whispering sound. Swish. He gathers the stray stalks. He deposits them into a basket. The motion is repetitive. Bend, scoop, lift, drop, bend, scoop, lift, drop. It is a dance of maintenance. The smell in the stable is complex and comforting. It smells of the sweet, dried clover in the hay. It smells of the distinct musky scent of horse sweat that has dried on the coat. It smells of leather oil and saddle soap. It smells of old wood and earth. It is a grounding scent, primitive and real. Look up at the rafters. The roof is high and shadowed. Swallows have built nests there made of mud and grass. They are asleep now, tucked away in the dark crevices. Occasionally, a small chirp echoes down, a tiny sound in the large space. The lantern flickers. The light dances across the backs of the horses. Shadows lengthen and contract. The wooden partitions between the stalls are polished smooth by the rubbing of flanks and shoulders over the years. The wood is dark, stained with oil and time. Go to the tack room at the end of the aisle. The door is open. Inside, the smell of leather is overpowering and rich. Rows of saddles are perched on wooden stands. These are Roman military saddles, the four-horned type, made of wood and covered in leather. They have no stirrups. The soldier enters the tack room. He sits on a three-legged stool. He picks up a bridle. The leather straps are supple and dark. The bronze bit, the piece that goes in the horse's mouth, hangs down. He takes a rag and a pot of tallow grease. He dips the rag into the grease. He begins to work it into the leather reins. Rub, rub, rub. He focuses on a single inch of the strap. He massages the grease in with his thumb. The leather darkens as it drinks the fat. It becomes softer, more pliable. He works his way down the rein inch by inch. This task cannot be rushed. If the leather is dry, it will crack. If it cracks, it will break. So he takes his time. The silence in the tack room is absolute, save for the friction of his thumb on the leather. He does not look up. He is lost in the sensation of the grease and the texture of the hide. Back in the main stable, the chewing has slowed down. Many of the horses are finished. The crunching sound is replaced by the sound of breathing. 30 pairs of lungs expanding and contracting. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. It is a slow rhythm, much slower than a human's. It creates a low-frequency hum in the air, a vibration of peace. One horse decides to lie down. This is a major event in the quiet stable. First, the front knees bend. Then the back legs fold. The massive body descends towards the straw. Thump it. The horse settles into the bedding. The straw crunches loudly for a moment as it shifts to accommodate the weight. Then silence returns. The horse stretches its neck out flat. It closes its eyes. To see a horse lie down is to see a creature that feels completely safe. It trusts the walls. It trusts the soldier. It trusts the night. The soldier in the tack room finishes the bridle. He hangs it on a peg. The metal bit clinks softly against the wood. Clink. He stands up and walks back out into the aisle. He does one last check. He walks the length of the stable, looking into each stall. Stall 1 sleeping. Stall 2 sleeping. Stall 3. The bay mare is resting her chin on the manger, eyes half closed. He stops at the door. He looks back at the rows of warm, brown backs. The lantern is burning low. He decides to leave it lit. It is a comfort to the animals. He steps out of the stable. He pulls the top half of the door closed, but not all the way. He leaves a crack for the air. He slides the bolt across. The metal bolt slides into the metal bracket with a heavy, final sound. Clack. He stands outside for a moment. The air feels colder now after the warmth of the barn. He wraps his arms around himself. He listens. He can still hear them inside, the faint rustle of straw, the heavy breaths. The horses are settled. The cavalry is at rest. He turns and walks away towards the barracks. His footsteps crunch on the gravel. Crunch, crunch, crunch. The stable remains behind him, a warm, breathing box in the middle of the cold, stone camp. Inside, the dust motes settle on the floor. The mice come out from the corners to steal a grain of oat. They move silently, like little shadows. A spider descends from the roof on a single thread of silk. It hangs in the center of the aisle, suspended in the amber light. It spins slowly, round and round. The night deepens. The silence grows heavier. The fortress is a layered cake of sleeping things. Men in their bunks, horses in their stalls, birds in the rafters, all motionless, all waiting for the sun that is still many hours away. Focus on the stillness of the wood in the stable door. It is old oak. It has grain that runs deep and straight. It does not move. It holds the line between the inside and the outside. Focus on the iron hinges of the door. They are rusted slightly, turning orange and brown. They are cold. They hold the weight of the wood without complaint. Focus on the ground in front of the stable. The dirt is patterned with the footprints of the soldier. One print here, one print there. They are frozen in the earth, a record of the slow walk he took just moments ago. Everything is still, everything is quiet, everything is boring. And in that boredom, there is a deep, profound rest. Move away from the stables now. Leave the smell of hay and the warmth of the horses behind. Walk back towards the center of the fortress, past the dark bulk of the headquarters. Here, set slightly apart from the noise of the main streets, lies the valetudinarium, the military hospital. It is a large, rectangular building designed for silence and air circulation. The entrance is marked by a simple wooden portico. Step through the archway. You are now in a world of absolute hush. If the barracks were quiet, the hospital is silent. It is a heavy, reverent silence, the kind that exists in places where people are sleeping to recover their strength. The hospital is built around a central courtyard. Walk softly along the perimeter corridor. The floor here is not dirt or wood, but smooth concrete, polished until it gleams faintly in the moonlight. Your sandals make a very soft tap, tap, tap sound on the hard surface. To your left is the open courtyard. It is a garden of medicine. Even in the dark, you can smell the plants growing there. The air is cool and perfumed with a complex herbal bouquet. Breathe it in. There is the sharp, clean scent of rosemary. It clears the mind. There is the dusty, gray smell of sage. It feels like velvet in the nose. There is the sweet, lingering aroma of chamomile flowers, their small yellow heads closed tight for the night. And underneath it all, the faint, acidic tang of vinegar and the rich sweetness of honey stored in jars nearby. The garden is still. A small fountain sits in the center. It is not a grand display, just a simple stone basin with a trickle of water. Listen to the water. Burble, splash, burble, splash. It is a continuous, gentle loop. The water rises, falls, and returns to the source. It has been doing this all day, and it will do it all night. It is a sound that smooths out the edges of the mind. Turn your attention to the corridor. Along the right-hand wall are the doors to the wards. They are small rooms, cubicula, each designed to hold a few sick or injured men. The doors are open to let the air flow. A medical orderly, a capsarius, sits at a small wooden table at the junction of two corridors. He is the guardian of the night. He is not a doctor. The doctors are asleep in their quarters. He is there simply to watch, to wait, and to ensure the quiet remains unbroken. He is a young man with a calm face. He sits perfectly still, his hands resting on his knees. On the table in front of him is a single oil lamp. The flame is shielded by a thin sheet of translucent horn, creating a soft, diffused glow that does not hurt the eyes. Next to the lamp is a small mortar and pestle made of stone. Beside it, a pile of dried mint leaves. The orderly decides to work. He needs to prepare a digestive tea for the morning round. He reaches out. His hand moves slowly into the pool of light. He picks up a pinch of the dried leaves. They are brittle and crinkly. He drops them into the stone bowl. Rustle. He picks up another pinch. Drop, rustle. He picks up the pestle. It is a heavy, cylindrical piece of stone. He places it into the bowl. He begins to grind. Grind, scrape, grind, scrape. The sound is low and gritty. Stone rubbing against stone, crushing the dry leaves between them. With each rotation of the pestle, the smell of mint is released into the air. It is a fresh, cool scent that cuts through the mustiness of the night. The orderly works with a hypnotic rhythm, round and round. He is not using force. He is using the weight of the stone. He watches the leaves turn into a fine green powder. He is in no rush. The pile of leaves is small, but he stretches the task out, making each movement deliberate. Grind, pause, scrape, pause. Down the hallway from one of the darkened rooms comes a sound, a cough. It is dry and short. Then the sound of rustling linen as a patient shifts in his bed. Then silence returns. The orderly lifts his head. He listens. He waits. The silence holds. The patient has settled back into sleep. The orderly lowers his head and resumes his work. Let us walk past him down the corridor of the wards. The rooms are shadows within shadows. Peek into one. The room is small and square. The walls are painted a soothing pale green, though in the dark they look gray. There are 2 beds. On the left bed, a soldier lies on his back. His leg is propped up on a pillow, wrapped in clean white linen bandages. The bandages are wrapped with precision, a spiral pattern that goes from the ankle to the knee. The white fabric glows faintly in the darkness. The soldier is asleep. His chest rises and falls with a shallow, easy rhythm. Rise, fall, rise, fall. On the small table beside his bed is a ceramic cup of water and a small bowl of pasca, sour wine mixed with water and herbs. The liquid in the cup is perfectly still. A fly lands on the rim of the cup. It walks a few steps, cleans its wings, and flies away. The room smells of salve, a mixture of olive oil, beeswax, and lead oxide used to treat wounds. It is a heavy, waxy smell, medicinal and thick. It is the smell of healing. Continue down the corridor. The floor stretches out ahead, a long ribbon of polished stone. The moonlight coming from the courtyard casts rectangular shapes onto the floor. You walk through them. Light, shadow, light, shadow. At the end of the hall is the instrument room. The door is locked, but we can imagine what is inside. Rows of bronze tools laid out on linen cloths. Scalpels, probes, forceps. They are cold and metal. They are clean. They are waiting for the day. In the dark, they glint slightly, catching the stray beams of light. Next to the instrument room is the linen store. The door is open. Inside, shelves are stacked high with bandages and blankets. The smell here is of dry fabric and lavender, which is dried and placed between the folds to keep moths away. A second orderly is here. He is standing by a table, folding a pile of washed bandages. Watch his hands. He picks up a long strip of white linen. He holds it up to inspect it. It is clean. He places it on the table. He folds the end over. He smooths it down with the palm of his hand. Swish. The sound of his skin against the fabric is like a whisper. He folds it again, smooths it again, swish. He rolls the bandage up. He starts at one end and rolls it tight. His fingers work with the dexterity of practice, over and over. The roll grows thicker. When he is finished, he has a perfect cylinder of white cloth. He places it on a stack of identical cylinders. They look like little scrolls of paper containing nothing but softness. He picks up the next strip. He repeats the process. Inspect, place, fold, smooth, roll, stack. It is a task that could take all night, and it might. There are hundreds of bandages. The repetition is a form of meditation. He does not look bored, he looks peaceful. The world outside the hospital does not exist. There is only the linen and the table. Walk back towards the central courtyard. The moon has moved slightly across the sky. The shadow of a cypress tree has lengthened across the flagstones. Sit on the low stone wall surrounding the garden. The stone is cool beneath you. Look at the plants again. They are motionless. There is no wind here in the sheltered center of the building. A snail is moving across a large leaf of docking plant. It moves so slowly that you cannot see the motion if you stare directly at it. You have to look away and look back to see that it has made progress. It leaves a glistening, silver trail behind it. The snail is the perfect emblem of this place. Slow, silent, deliberate. The orderly at the front desk has finished grinding the mint. He taps the pestle against the side of the mortar to loosen the last of the powder. Tab, tab, tab. The sound echoes softly down the corridors, a gentle percussion that fades away into the rooms of the sleepers. He pours the powder into a small jar. He places the lid on the jar. He sets the jar on a shelf. Now he simply sits. He clasps his hands together. He stares at the flame of his lamp. The oil level has dropped slightly. He watches the wick blacken at the tip. He is not waiting for anything. He is simply existing in the quiet interval between the tasks of the night. The hospital breathes. It is a slow, collective breath of 50 sleeping men. You can feel the heaviness of the air. It is laden with the energy of rest. Far away outside the hospital, the night watchman on the wall walks his beat. But here, there are no weapons. There is no armor. There is only soft fabric, cool water, and the gentle potency of plants. The water in the fountain burbles again, a slightly louder splash as the pressure changes for a microsecond. Sploosh, then back to the steady rhythm. Everything is under control. The wounds are binding, the fevers are breaking, the bones are knitting. The body is doing its silent, miraculous work in the dark. You feel a wave of drowsiness. The smell of the lavender from the linen room drifts towards you. It is sweet and dusty. It makes your eyelids feel heavy. The orderly yawns. He covers his mouth with his hand. It is a long, slow yawn that stretches his jaw. He blinks, his eyes watering slightly. He rubs his eyes with his knuckles. He reaches for a pitcher of water and pours himself a cup. He drinks. The water is cool. He sets the cup down. Clink. The silence rushes back in to fill the space left by the sound. The hospital is a ship sailing through the night, carrying its cargo of sleepers safely towards the dawn. But the dawn is still far, far away. For now, there is only the lamp, the smell of herbs, and the peace of the stone walls. Leaving the medicinal silence of the hospital, you step back out into the grid of the fortress streets. The moon has climbed higher now, turning the cobblestones into a field of silver and gray scales. The air is still chilling, settling into the deepest trough of the night. Walk towards the center of the camp, near the Principia. Looming ahead is one of the most substantial structures in the entire fortress. It is the Horium, the Granary. It is not a place for men to sleep, but a place for the empire to survive. It is a massive, long building, constructed with thick stone walls supported by heavy external buttresses. The buttresses line the walls like ribs, solid and unmoving, holding the weight of the stone against the pressure of the grain inside. The building looks like a fortress within a fortress. There are no windows at ground level, only narrow ventilation slits high up near the roofline. These slits are designed to let the air in but keep the rain and the birds out. The structure feels impenetrable, a heavy box of stone sitting heavily on the earth. Walk around to the side. You will notice something specific about the foundation. The floor of the granary does not touch the ground. The entire building is raised on low stone pillars, creating a gap of about 3 feet between the earth and the floorboards. This is the suspensura. Crouch down and look into the black gap beneath the building. It is pitch dark under there. The air flows freely through this space, circulating under the floor to keep the dampness of the soil away from the precious wheat. It is a dry, dusty darkness under there, inhabited only by spiders and shadows. Move to the main entrance. The doors are colossal, thick planks of oak, bound with iron bands that are studded with heavy bolts. The wood is weathered, gray and hard as iron itself. A heavy padlock secures the latch, but there is a small service door to the side used by the quartermaster, which we can slip through in our imagination. Enter the granary. The first thing that hits you is the smell. It is an overwhelming, dry scent. It smells of golden fields baked in the summer sun but concentrated and preserved in the dark. It is the smell of thousands of tons of emmer wheat and barley. It is a dusty, powdery smell that coats the back of the throat. It is not unpleasant. It is the smell of security. It is the smell of bread that has not yet been baked. The interior is vast. It is a cathedral of food. 2 rows of wooden pillars march down the center of the hall, supporting the high, vaulted roof. The space is divided into wooden bins, celli, that run along the walls. It is darker here than anywhere else in the camp. The moonlight struggles to penetrate the narrow slits high above. It falls in thin, dusty beams that cut through the darkness like blades of light. These beams do not illuminate the room. They only highlight the dust motes dancing in the air. Watch the dust. Millions of tiny particles floating in the silence. They swirl slowly in the weak currents of air. They rise and fall, catching the silver light for a brief second before disappearing back into the gloom. Swirl, float, vanish. Walk down the central aisle. The floor is made of wood, raised above that air gap we saw outside. It is incredibly dry. When you step, the wood does not creak. It gives a solid, dull thud. Thump, thumpy, thump. To your left and right are the bins. They are filled to the brim with grain. Look closely at the grain. It is a sea of small, hard kernels. Millions of them. Each one is identical to the next. A smooth, golden brown shell protecting the white flour inside. The grain is static. It does not move. It sits there, a heavy, shifting mass that presses against the wooden slats of the bins. If you were to press your ear against the wood, you would hear nothing, just the silence of a million seeds waiting. But wait, there is a sound, a very faint, scratching sound. Scritch and scratch. It comes from the far end of the aisle. Keep walking slowly. Do not disturb the dust. In the shadows of a pillar, there is movement. 2 small, green eyes reflect the moonlight. It is the granary cat. This is her domain. She is not a pet. She is a soldier of the Legion in her own right, tasked with the defense of the grain against mice and rats. She is a calico, a patchwork of orange, black, and white fur. She sits perfectly still, her tail wrapped neatly around her paws. She is watching the darkness under the bins. She is the essence of patience. She stands up. She stretches. Her back arches into a high curve, her front paws extending, claws unsheathed for a moment to grip the wood. She opens her mouth in a silent yawn, showing pink gums and white teeth. Then she relaxes. She begins her patrol. She walks with a fluid, liquid grace. She makes absolutely no sound. Her paws are soft velvet pads that absorb the impact of her steps. She moves along the edge of the grain bins, rubbing her flank against the wood. Rubs, purr, rub. You can hear a faint purr, a low rumble in her chest. It is a vibration more than a sound. She is content. The granary is free of pests tonight. She jumps up onto the rim of a grain bin. She balances easily on the narrow wood. She looks down at the sea of wheat. To her, it is a desert of food. She steps gingerly onto the grain. Her paws sink slightly into the shifting surface. Rustle. A few grains slide over each other. It is a sound like dry sand pouring. She walks across the surface of the wheat. She is light enough that she does not sink. She reaches the center of the bin and sits down. The grain holds her warmth. She tucks her paws in. She closes her eyes to slits. She is the guardian of the harvest. Leave her there. Turn your attention back to the architecture of the room. The roof beams above are lost in shadow, but you can hear the wind outside whistling past the ventilation slits. Woo, woo. It is a lonely sound, emphasizing how sheltered you are inside. The thick stone walls insulate the room from the temperature changes outside. It is cool here, a constant, unchanging cool. There are other things stored here besides loose grain. In the corner there are stacks of amphorae, tall clay jars with two handles. They are leaning against each other in a wooden rack. They contain olive oil and wine. The clay is rough and unglazed on the outside. Walk over to them. Touch the side of a jar. It is cold and damp. The clay sweats slightly, keeping the liquid inside cool. There are sacks of lentils and peas stacked in a pyramid. The burlap sacks are rough and hairy. They bulge with the round shapes of the dried pulses inside. One sack has settled slightly, looking like a tired old man slumped in the corner. The stillness here is different from the barracks or the stable. In the barracks, there is the biological rhythm of sleeping men. In the stable, the breathing of horses. But here, the stillness is geological. The grain is dormant. It is asleep in a way that living things are not. It can wait for years. The air is so dry that your lips feel chapped just by breathing it. It is pure, preserved air. A spider web connects the handle of an amphora to the wall. It is an old web, thick with dust. It hangs slack, no longer in use. A draft from the ventilation slit catches it. It sways gently back and forth. Sway, back, sway, forth. It is a pendulum marking no time. You lean against a wooden pillar. The wood is cedar, imported from far away. If you scratch the surface with your fingernail, you might still release a tiny ghost of the scent of the forest it came from. But mostly, it just smells of age. The shadows in the room seem to lengthen as the moon moves. The beam of light that was hitting the floor has now moved up to the side of a bin. It illuminates the grain pattern in the wood, swirls and knots. You can trace the life of the tree in those lines. A year of drought, a year of rain, all recorded in the wood, now holding the grain that feeds the army. The granary is a vault. It holds the energy of the sun, captured in the wheat, stored for the dark winter days. It is a battery of calories. The cat on the grain pile shifts. She rolls onto her side. She is fully asleep now. Her belly rises and falls. Even the guardian needs to rest. The silence is so deep it rings in your ears. A high-pitched, steady hum that comes from inside your own head, because there is no external sound to focus on. You look down the long, dark tunnel of the aisle. It seems to go on forever, vanishing into blackness. It is a perspective of infinity. Pillars and shadows, pillars and shadows. Imagine the work that happens here during the day. The shouting, the heavy lifting, the clouds of flour dust, the tallying of measures. But now all of that chaos is gone. The dust has settled. The ledgers are closed. The doors are locked. There is nothing to do here but exist, to be dry, to be safe, to be quiet. You take one last look at the stacks of sacks. They look like sleeping boulders. You look at the amphory. They look like silent sentinels. You turn back towards the small service door. You open it. The hinges are well-oiled and silent. You step out. The night air hits you again, wetter, colder, fresher than the tomb-like dryness of the granary. You close the door, click. You are back in the moonlight. The massive wall of the granary stands beside you, a silent giant protecting the sleep of the wheat. The wind brushes past your face. The fortress continues its slow rotation through the night. The stars above wheel overhead, indifferent and bright. You stand there for a moment, just breathing. The taste of the dust is still on your tongue. The memory of the golden grain is printed on your mind. It is a boring memory, a simple memory, but it feels solid, like the stone, like the earth. You begin to walk away, your footsteps quiet on the road, heading towards the next shadow, the next silence. The night air outside the granary was dry and cold, but just a few paces away, the atmosphere shifts again. You can smell this building before you see it. It is a smell that triggers a deep, primal memory in the brain. It is the smell of sustenance. It is the scent of warm yeast, toasted bran, and wood ash. You have arrived at the pistrinum, the military bakery. This is where the grain you saw in the granary is transformed. If the granary is the vault, the bakery is the laboratory. But tonight, the work is done. The heavy labor of the day has ceased, and the building has settled into a warm, fermentation-filled slumber. The entrance is a wide archway without a door, allowing the heat to escape. Step inside. The air is immediately warmer. It is not the wet, steamy heat of the bathhouse, nor the animal warmth of the stables. It is a dry, baking heat that radiates from the very walls themselves. The bricks have absorbed the fire of the day and are now slowly releasing it back into the night. The room is dominated by the ovens. There are 4 of them, massive domed structures built of red brick and clay. They look like giant beehives or the shells of immense tortoises resting on the floor. The fires inside them have been raked out or banked low with ash to preserve the embers for the morning. Walk towards the nearest oven. You can feel the heat on your face from 3 feet away. It is a gentle, invisible pressure. Place your hand near the brickwork, not touching it, just hovering. The air is thick with warmth. It feels solid. The mouth of the oven is blocked by a heavy iron plate. There is a tiny gap at the bottom. If you crouch down and peer through, you might see a faint, deep red glow in the very back. It is the heartbeat of the bakery. A single log of oak, slowly turning into charcoal. It pulses with a dim light. Glow, fade, glow, fade. Turn away from the ovens and look at the center of the room. Here stand the millstones. They are the mali. They are carved from dark, porous volcanic rock basalt. They are heavy, brutal shapes. A cone-shaped bottom stone and an hourglass-shaped top stone that fits over it. During the day, these stones roar and grind, driven by the muscles of men or donkeys. But now, they are silent statues. The rough surface of the stone is dusted with a fine layer of white flour. It looks like snow on a dark mountain. Walk up to one of the mills. Touch the stone. It is cool and incredibly rough. Your fingertip traces the small pits and sharp edges of the lava rock. This texture is what crushes the wheat. It is a texture of friction. There is a wooden handle sticking out from the side of the top stone. It is polished smooth by thousands of hands pushing it round and round. It is silent now. No one is pushing. The stone sits heavy and immovable, anchored by its own weight. On the other side of the room are the kneading troughs. These are long wooden tables with raised edges. They are made of smooth, pale beech wood. This is where the magic happens. Tonight, the troughs are not empty. They contain the sponge, the starter for tomorrow's bread. It is a massive mound of dough, covered with damp linen cloths to keep it from drying out. Stand quietly by the trough. If you listen very closely, you can hear the dough. It is alive. The yeast is working in the dark, feeding on the sugars in the flour, creating tiny bubbles of gas. Snap pop. It is the tiniest sound in the world. A bubble bursting deep inside the sticky mass. Squelch shift. The dough is slowly expanding. It is pushing against the linen cloth. The cloth rises imperceptibly, millimeter by millimeter. It is a slow-motion inhalation that takes hours. The dough is breathing. The smell here is intoxicatingly boring. It is sour and sweet at the same time, the smell of fermentation. It is a heavy smell that fills the lungs and makes the body feel slow. It is the smell of comfort. A baker is here, sleeping on a pallet in the corner. He needs to be up before the sun to stoke the fires. He is curled up under a rough blanket, his head resting on a sack of flour. The flour sack makes a surprisingly good pillow, firm but yielding. He breathes in the yeast-laden air. His apron hangs on a peg above him, stiff with dried dough. His sandals are by the door. He is part of the machinery of this room. Look at the floor. It is flagged with stone, but in the cracks between the stones there are drifts of white flour. It softens the outlines of the floor. It looks like a map of a snowy landscape. A wooden peel, the long, shovel-like tool used to put bread into the oven, leans against the wall. The handle is long, maybe 8 feet. The blade is scorched black at the edges from touching the fire so many times. It stands there like a spear, but a spear of peace. The heat from the ovens creates a gentle convection current in the room. You can feel a very faint draft on your cheek. It is the warm air rising to the ceiling and the cooler air sinking. It stirs the flour dust on the floor just enough to make it shift, but not enough to make it fly. There is a bucket of water near the kneading trough. The surface of the water is dusted with a thin film of flour. It looks like a sheet of ice. Beneath the film, the water is dark. Focus on the bricks of the oven again. They are old. Some are chipped. The mortar between them is gray and crumbling slightly. You can trace the rows of bricks. 1 row, 2 rows, 3 rows. They spiral up to form the dome. It is a perfect arch, a feat of engineering that holds tons of weight without a single beam. The silence of the bakery is different from the silence of the granary. The granary was empty silence. This is a pregnant silence. It is a silence that is waiting for something. It is the silence of growth. The dough is doubling in size while the world sleeps. The baker shifts in his sleep. He mutters a single word, unintelligible, and settles back down. The straw in his mattress rustles, crinkle. A mouse appears near the woodpile. It is inevitable. Where there is grain, there are mice. It scampers over a log. It stops. It twitches its nose. It smells the dough, but the dough is too high up in the trough. The mouse settles for a spilled grain of wheat on the floor. It picks it up in its front paws. It nibbles. Nibble, snibble, nibble. The sound is sharp but tiny. It emphasizes the quiet. The mouse finishes the grain and darts back into the shadows behind the woodpile. The warmth of the room is seeping into your bones. It makes your shoulders drop. It makes your jaw unclench. It is a womb-like warmth, secure, enclosed, fed. You look at the ceiling beams. They are blackened with soot from years of fires. They are dark ribs arching over the room. Shadows cling to them. The red glow in the oven vent flares up for a second as a draft hits the ember, then dies down again. It is a slow pulse, like a sleepy eye opening and closing. You walk over to the woodpile, stacks of seasoned oak and olive wood. The bark is rough. The ends of the logs are cut smooth, showing the rings of the tree. The wood smells of earth and dry forest. It is potential energy waiting to be released as heat. You pick up a small chip of wood from the floor. It is light. You turn it over in your fingers. Splinters on one side, smooth bark on the other. You place it back on the pile. Click. The sound of the wood hitting the pile is dry and hollow. The dough in the trough sighs. A large pocket of gas shifts the mass. The linen cloth moves visibly this time, settling into a new shape. The living bread is getting comfortable. This room is the engine of the morning. When the trumpet sounds at dawn, this room will explode into activity. But right now, it is in stasis. It is charging up. The flour dust in the air settles on your eyelashes. It is soft. You blink. The atmosphere is thick, heavy, and slow. Time moves differently here. It moves at the speed of rising dough. It moves at the speed of cooling brick. You lean against a wooden pillar. It is warm to the touch. The heat is everywhere. It wraps around you like a heavy blanket. You watch the baker's chest rise and fall. You watch the oven glow pulse. You listen to the silence. There is nothing urgent here. The bread will rise when it rises. The fire will burn when it burns. The night is doing the work for you. You take a deep breath, filling your lungs with the savory, yeasty air. It tastes of home. It tastes of safety. Slowly, you turn to leave. You step out of the archway. The cold night air hits you again, rushing into your nose, waking you up slightly, but the core of warmth remains in your chest. You look back one last time. The bakery is a dark cave, glowing faintly from within, a sanctuary of heat in a cold stone world. You turn away and begin to walk down the street again. The stones are cold under your feet. The moon is watching. The camp sleeps on. The night is deepening. The moon has passed its zenith and is beginning the long slide down the western slope of the sky. You walk away from the warmth of the bakery, leaving the smell of yeast behind. The air becomes sharper, cleaner, and colder. You are heading towards the industrial sector of the fortress, the Fabrica. This is the workshop. It is the place where the Legion repairs itself. Here, swords are sharpened, armor is patched, and the iron hobnails for sandals are forged. During the day, this building is a cacophony of ringing metal, roaring fires, and shouting men. It is the loudest place in the camp. But now it is a tomb of silence. The building is open-fronted to allow the smoke to escape, but heavy wooden shutters have been pulled down for the night. There is a small gap between the shutters. You slip through. The darkness inside is absolute. It takes a long time for your eyes to adjust. Slowly, shapes begin to emerge from the gloom. Hard, angular shapes. There are no soft edges here. No straw mattresses, no rising dough, no breathing animals. Everything here is made of stone, iron, and wood. The smell is distinct. It is the scent of cold metal. It tastes metallic on the tongue, like sucking on a copper coin. Mixed with it is the smell of old charcoal dust and the acrid, sulfurous scent of the quench tank, the water used to cool hot steel. It is a sharp, masculine, inorganic smell. Walk towards the center of the room. There, looming in the darkness, is the anvil. It sits on a massive stump of oak, buried deep into the dirt floor to absorb the shock of the hammer. The anvil is a block of solid iron. It is heavy, dense, and immovable. Reach out and touch the face of the anvil. It is freezing cold. The metal sucks the heat right out of your fingertips. The surface is smooth, polished to a mirror finish by years of pounding. But if you run your finger to the edge, you can feel the tiny dings and dents, the history of 1,000 blows. Slide, stop, slide, stop. Beside the anvil lies the hammer. It is resting on a wooden rack. It is a heavy sledge, the head made of iron, the handle made of ash. It lies there inert. It has no energy of its own. It waits for the hand of the smith. The handle is stained dark with sweat and soot. It is smooth as glass. Behind the anvil is the forge. It is a raised brick hearth. Now it is a cold, dark pit. The fire is out. There isn't even a glow, just a bed of black, dead charcoal and gray ash. Pick up a piece of charcoal from the edge of the forge. It is light as a feather. It crumbles slightly in your fingers, leaving a black smudge. It is dry and brittle. Grum dust. To the left of the forge are the bellows. They are huge, lung-like contraptions made of leather and wood. They hang from the ceiling beams. The leather is old and cracked in places, treated with grease to keep it flexible. Now they are deflated. They hang limp and heavy. There is no air moving through them. They are like sleeping giants, their breath held until morning. Look at the walls. They are lined with racks of tools. Tongs of every shape and size hang in rows. Long tongs, short tongs, flat-nosed tongs, needle-nosed tongs. They hang vertically, creating a pattern of black lines against the gray wall. They look like the skeletons of strange metal birds. They do not move. There is no wind in here to rattle them. They are perfectly still. On a workbench nearby, there is a pile of larica scales, small bronze plates used for armor. The smith was working on them before the shift ended. They are stacked in neat piles. They gleam dully in the faint light that leaks through the shutter. Pick one up. It is small, the size of a playing card. It is cold. It has small holes punched into the corners for the wire ties. It is a single scale of a dragon that does not exist. You place it back on the stack. Clink. The sound is sharp and high-pitched. It cuts through the silence and dies instantly. There is no echo in this room. The dirt floor and the soot-covered walls absorb the sound. On the floor, near the workbench, there are metal shavings. Spiral curls of bronze and iron that have been shaved off during repairs. They crunch under your sandals if you step on them. Crunch is snap. Avoid them, step onto the bare earth. In the corner stands a barrel of water. This is the quench tank. The water is black and oily. It has a film of scum on the surface. It smells stagnant and burnt. It is the water that kills the fire. It is the coldest thing in the room. You lean against a wooden pillar. You look around the silent workshop. It is strange to see a place of such violence and noise reduced to this. It feels like a paused moment, as if time has stopped. The air is dry and dusty, but it is a different dust than the granary. This is iron dust. It is heavy. It settles low. A spider has spun a web between the handles of two large pairs of tongs. It sits in the center. Even the insects here are motionless. You look at the unfinished work on the bench. A sword blade that is half polished. A helmet with a missing cheek guard. They are just objects. Without the soldiers to wear them, without the smith to fix them, they are just cold metal shapes in the dark. The silence here is heavy. It presses against your ears. It is a silence that demands nothing. The anvil does not need to be fed. The hammer does not need to be walked. They just are. You feel a sense of profound stillness. The atoms of the iron are locked in place. The wood of the handle is frozen. The charcoal is dead. It is a peaceful, if stark, environment. It is a place of potential. The potential to create, the potential to repair. But for now, that potential is dormant. You run your hand along the edge of the workbench. The wood is rough, scarred by knife slips and chisel marks. You can feel the texture of the grain. Rough, smooth, splinter, smooth. You exhale. Your breath does not fog as much here. The air is dry. You decide to leave the iron to its sleep. You walk back towards the shuttered entrance. You squeeze through the gap. The night air outside feels softer now, more organic. You have left the world of hard edges and returned to the world of wind and stone. The workshop stands behind you, a dark box filled with cold tools. You look up at the sky. The constellations have rotated a few degrees further. The wheel of the night turns slowly, grinding the time away like a millstone, but silently, so silently. You are alone in the street, the only witness to the sleeping forge. You turn your steps towards the next destination, moving deeper into the quiet heart of the camp. From the silent, metallic cold of the workshops, you continue your slow walk through the sleeping fortress. The grid of streets is repetitive, hypnotic. Block after block of barracks, identical in the moonlight. But your destination now is one of the most essential, yet often overlooked, buildings in the camp, the latrine. This is not a dark, foul pit. In a Roman fortress, the latrine is a marvel of hydraulic engineering. It is clean. It is washed by constant water. And at this hour, it is a place of solitude and the soothing sound of flowing streams. The entrance is open, screened only by a low wall to block the wind. Step inside. The first thing you notice is the sound. It is louder here than anywhere else in the camp, except perhaps near the river itself. But it is a gentle noise. Rush, gurgle, flow. It is the sound of water moving constantly. The room is large and rectangular. Along 3 of the walls there is a continuous bench made of stone. The stone is smooth, polished by use. Cut into the bench at regular intervals are keyhole-shaped openings. These are the seats. But look down. Beneath the stone bench there is a deep channel. Water diverted from the camp's aqueduct rushes through this channel without stopping. It enters from one side, sweeps through the darkness under the seats, and exits on the other side, carrying all waste away into the sewers and out to the river. It is a machine of cleanliness. There is no smell of decay here. The constant flush of water keeps the air surprisingly fresh. It smells of damp stone, of moss, and of the cold, mineral scent of the mountain water that feeds the system. Walk to the center of the room. There is a second, smaller channel cut into the floor, running parallel to the bench, right in front of where your feet would be. This channel also has water flowing through it. It is clear and shallow. Ripple, sparkle, ripple. This water is for cleaning sponges. In the corner there is a bucket filled with wooden sticks, each tipped with a natural sea sponge. This is the tersarium. Tonight they sit in a bucket of vinegar and water, soaking, waiting to be used. The room is empty. The soldiers are asleep. The hustle and bustle of the morning routine is hours away. Now the latrine belongs to the water. The moonlight spills in through the high windows, reflecting off the wet stone floor. The whole room glimmers. It feels like a grotto, a cave found near a waterfall. Sit down on the stone bench. It is cold. The cold seeps through your tunic, a sharp reminder of the stone's nature. But after a moment, your body heat begins to warm the spot. Lean back against the wall behind you. The plaster is smooth. Close your eyes and just listen. The acoustics in here are bright and echoing. The sound of the water in the main channel is a low, throaty roar. The sound of the water in the floor channel is a higher, tinkling sound. Together, they create a white noise that blocks out everything else. You cannot hear the wind. You cannot hear the guards. You cannot hear the horses. There is only the water. It is a cleansing sound. It washes the thoughts out of your head. Whoosh, shhh, whoosh. Watch the water in the floor channel. It moves fast. A small leaf has blown in through the window and landed in the stream. Watch it go. It bobs along, spinning in the current. It passes the first seat, the second seat, the third. It disappears into the drain at the end of the room. Gone. The motion is mesmerizing. The water never stops. It comes from the hills, passes through the camp, and returns to the earth. It is an endless cycle. In the corner, a small oil lamp burns in a niche. It is the only light besides the moon. The flame is steady. It reflects on the wet floor, creating a twin flame that dances in the water. A moth flutters around the lamp. It bumps softly against the wall. Tap, tap. It is a frantic, tiny sound against the backdrop of the rushing water. The stone of the seats is marble or perhaps a polished limestone. It is high quality. The army invests in its health. You run your hand over the stone between the seats. It is cool and slick with condensation. There is a sense of privacy here, despite the communal design. In the dead of night, with no one else around, it feels like a secret chamber. You look up at the ceiling. It is vaulted, covered in white plaster. The shadows of the water ripples are cast upwards by the moonlight, creating moving patterns on the roof. Wavy lines of gray and white that shift and undulate. It looks like you are underwater looking up at the surface. The air is humid. You can taste the moisture. It feels good on your skin, hydrating after the dry air of the granary and the heat of the bakery. You stand up. Your sandals make a wet squelch sound on the damp floor. You walk over to the basin in the corner. A pipe feeds fresh water into it from the wall, a continuous thin stream. Trickle, plink, plink. You cup your hand under the stream. The water is freezing. It shocks your skin. You splash a little on your face. It wakes you up, but in a calm way. It makes you feel present. You dry your hands on your tunic. You look around the room one last time. The rows of empty seats, the dark channels, the gleaming floor. It is a place of function, stripped of all decoration, yet beautiful in its efficiency. It is boring. It is wonderfully, hypnotically boring. The water does the same thing over and over again. It does not change. It does not pause. You step back towards the entrance. The sound of the rushing water begins to fade as you move away, but it never truly stops. It is the background hum of the camp's hygiene. You step out into the street. The silence of the outside world rushes back in to replace the sound of the water. It feels quieter now than before. The absence of the rushing water leaves a void in your ears. You stand there for a moment, adjusting to the silence. The wind sighs through an alleyway. Sigh. You turn your face to the breeze. You are clean, you are calm, you are ready to move on. The night is still young enough to be long, but old enough to be deep. The camp is a labyrinth of sleep, and you are its only explorer. You start walking again. Tap, tap, tap. Your footsteps lead you further into the dark. The night is now fully established. The moon hangs suspended in the sky, a silent watcher over the sleeping world. You leave the sound of the water behind and walk towards the very center of the fortress, the geographical and spiritual heart of the camp, the Principia. This is the headquarters. It is the largest building complex in the fortress, a place of stone columns and tiled roofs. During the day, this is the brain of the Legion, buzzing with officers, messengers, and commanders. But at this hour, it is a cavern of echoes. Walk through the main archway. You enter a large, open courtyard paved with flagstones. It is surrounded by a colonnade, a covered walkway supported by stone pillars. The shadows here are deep and geometric. The columns cast long, black stripes across the silver courtyard floor. Stripe, light, stripe, light. In the center of the courtyard stands a statue of the emperor. It is bronze, weathered to a dark green patina. The figure stands with one arm raised in a gesture of address, but he is addressing no one. The courtyard is empty. The statue stands in eternal silence, preaching to the moonlight. Walk along the colonnade. Your footsteps are soft. To the rear of the building lies the basilica, a great cross hall used for assemblies, but we are not going there. We are heading to a smaller room off to the side, the tabularium, the records office. The door is heavy oak, reinforced with bronze studs. It is closed but not locked. You push it open. The hinges are well-oiled. They swing inward with a low, smooth hum. Inside, the air is completely different from the outside. It is dry, incredibly dry. It smells of old things. It smells of dust, of dried river reeds, papyrus, of beeswax, and of carbon ink. It is the smell of bureaucracy. It is the smell of numbers and lists. A single lamp burns on a desk in the corner. The light is weak, illuminating only a small circle of the wooden surface. Sitting there is a librarius, a clerk of the Legion. He is not a warrior in this moment. He is an accountant. He is a man of letters. He is awake while the rest of the camp sleeps, but he is barely awake. His eyes are heavy. His posture is slumped. He is working on a roster, a list of supplies. Specifically, he is counting the inventory of spare tunic belts. It is the most mundane task imaginable. Watch him work. He holds a calamus, a reed pen. The tip is cut to a sharp point. He dips it into a small ceramic pot of ink, the atramentum. Dip. He taps the pen against the rim of the pot to remove the excess ink. Tap, tap. He moves the pen to the sheet of papyrus spread out before him. The papyrus is rough, a grid of pressed plant fibers. He brings the pen down. Scratch. He writes a number. The sound of the reed on the papyrus is dry and raspy, like a dry leaf being dragged across a stone. Scratch, scritch. He looks at a wax tablet next to him, where the raw numbers are scratched. He copies the next number. Dip, tap, scratch. He pauses. He rubs his eyes with his left hand. The skin around his eyes is pale in the lamp light. He sighs. It is a long, shuddering exhalation that flutters the flame of the lamp for a second. The room is lined with shelves, armaria. They are filled with scrolls, hundreds of them. Some are white and new. Some are yellow and brittle with age. They are stacked in honeycomb-like racks. Each scroll has a small wooden tag hanging from the end, identifying its contents. Grain reports year of the consulship of. Disciplinary records Centuria IV. Boots requiring repair. The history of the Legion is here. Not the history of battles and glory, but the history of logistics. The boring truth of how an army survives. The clerk looks up into the darkness of the room. He stares at nothing. His mind is drifting. He is thinking about his bed. He is thinking about the softness of the wool blanket. But he has 3 more columns to copy. He dips the pen again. The ink is black and thick. It glistens on the nib for a moment before drying into the fiber of the paper. Scratch, XVII, scratch, XVII. The repetition is hypnotic. Down the column he goes. Roman numerals one after another. Straight lines, V-shapes, X-shapes. It is a forest of symbols. The room is silent enough that you can hear the settling of the building. A wooden shelf creaks under the weight of the scrolls. Creak. A draft from under the door moves a loose piece of papyrus on the floor. It slides an inch. SHHHHK. The clerk reaches for a cup of watered wine. He takes a sip. He swallows. You can hear the liquid moving down his throat. Gulp. He sets the cup down. The ceramic clicks against the wood. Click. He picks up a small knife. The nib of his pen has gone soft. He needs to sharpen it. He holds the reed. He slices a thin sliver off the tip. A slice. The sound is sharp and clean. He slices again to shape the point. Slice. He tests the point on a scrap piece of papyrus. It is good. He resumes his work. Behind him in the shadows stands a large wooden chest. It is bound in iron. This is the Arca, the Legion's strongbox. It holds the soldiers' savings. It is locked with 3 different locks. It sits there, heavy and silent, a cube of security. The clerk stops writing. He has finished the column. He sprinkles a fine sand over the wet ink to dry it. Shake, shake. The sand hits the paper with a sound like falling rain. Patter, patter. He waits a moment, then he blows the sand off. Woo! The sand skitters across the desk and onto the floor, joining the dust of 1,000 other nights. He rolls up the scroll. This is a deliberate action. He tucks the end in. He rolls it with the palms of his hands. Rolls, roll, roll. The papyrus crinkles stiffly. It resists being rolled, then submits. He ties it with a small leather thong. He places it on the stack of finished work. He is done for the night. He cleans his pen. He wipes it on a rag. He closes the ink pot with a cork stopper. Squeak. He leans back in his chair. The wood of the chair groans. Grow on. He stretches his arms over his head. His joints crack. He looks at the lamp. The oil is low. He decides to blow it out. He leans forward. Puff. The flame vanishes. The room is plunged into darkness, save for the moonlight filtering through the high windows. The smell of the extinguished wick, acrid smoke, drifts through the air. It mixes with the smell of the paper. The clerk stands up. He navigates the room by memory. He knows where the desk ends. He knows where the door is. He walks out of the tabularium. He pulls the heavy door shut behind him. Thud. He walks across the courtyard. The statue of the emperor is still there, arm raised, silent. The clerk does not look at it. He is too tired. He walks out of the Principia. The main street is empty. The wind has died down. The camp is now in the deepest part of the night, the dead of night. Everything is still. The scrolls in the office are sleeping. The numbers are sleeping. The history is safe on the shelves. You stand in the archway of the headquarters looking out. The symmetry of the camp is beautiful in the dark. Straight lines, right angles, order. It is a boring view, but it is a peaceful one. There is no chaos here, just the slow, steady breathing of the empire. You feel the fatigue of the clerk in your own limbs, the heaviness of the eyelids, the desire to simply lie down and let gravity take over. The silence is a physical weight. It rests on your shoulders like a heavy cloak. You listen to the nothingness. There is absolutely nothing to hear. And that is enough. Leaving the silent, ink-smelling administrative center, you drift towards the northern edge of the camp. Here, the ground rises slightly. You are approaching the highest point within the walls. Before you even see the structure, you can feel it. There is a low-frequency vibration in the ground, a constant, trembling hum that travels up through the soles of your sandals. This is the Castellum Aquae, the water castle. It is the distribution tower where the aqueduct enters the fortress. The structure is tall, a solid block of masonry that looms against the starry sky. It looks like a small fortress within the fortress. There are no windows, only small vents near the top. The walls are damp to the touch, sweating with the condensation of the millions of gallons of water that pass through them. Walk around to the side of the tower. There is a ladder built of sturdy oak rungs set into the stone. Climb it, slowly. Creak, step. The higher you go, the louder the sound becomes. It is a rushing sound, a continuous roar of captured nature. You reach the maintenance platform at the top. You are now level with the aqueduct channel coming from the distant hills. Look into the channel. It is a stone trough lined with waterproof cement, opus signinum, made of crushed tile and lime. It is pinkish in color, even in the moonlight. Inside this trough flows a river. The water is dark, smooth, and fast. It does not splash, it slides. It is a sheet of black glass moving at a constant speed, driven only by gravity. It has traveled miles to get here, falling only a few inches for every 100 feet. It is a masterpiece of slow, inevitable physics. Whoosh, shhhhhh. The sound is white noise. It masks everything. Up here, you are alone with the water. Watch the water enter the tower. It pours into a large lead tank, the settling basin. This is where the sediment, the sand and the pebbles, sinks to the bottom so that only clean water enters the pipes. The water hits the surface of the tank with a churning motion. Roil, swirl, bubble. Froth forms on the surface, white and lacy. It spins in slow circles, trapped by the current. A small twig carried down from the mountains spins with it, round and round. It will spin there all night until someone fishes it out in the morning. The air up here smells of wet stone and algae. It is a sharp mineral smell. It smells like a cave deep underground. Look at the pipes leading out of the tank. They are made of lead, thick gray metal folded over and soldered at the seams. They are the fistulae. They fan out like the arteries of a giant beast, carrying water to the bathhouse, the latrines, the fountains, and the officers' quarters. Touch one of the lead pipes. It is freezing cold. It vibrates under your hand. You can feel the energy of the water rushing inside it. It is a living thing, encased in metal. Thrum, thrum, thrum. There is a valve on the main pipe. It is a bronze stopcock, green with oxidation. It is currently open. A small drop of water leaks from the joint. Drip. It falls onto the stone floor of the platform. Splad. Wait for the next one. It takes 5 seconds. Drip. Splad. This leak has probably been there for years. It has worn a tiny depression into the stone floor, a miniature crater made by the persistence of water. The castellum aqui never sleeps. The bakery rests, the forge rests, the soldiers rest, but the water never stops. If it stopped, the pressure would build and the aqueduct would overflow, so it must flow, night and day, winter and summer. It is a comforting thought. The empire has harnessed the river. It has put the river in a box and made it march in a straight line. You lean on the railing of the platform. You look down at the camp below. From this height, the fortress looks like a model. The straight streets, the dark roofs. You can see the faint smoke rising from the bathhouse chimney far away. You know the water flowing under your hand right now will be in that bathhouse in a few minutes. You are at the source of the camp's life. A water engineer, the Aquarius, is likely asleep in a small hut at the base of the tower. His job is simply to listen. As long as the roar continues, he can sleep. If the roar stops, he must wake. But tonight, the roar is steady. It is a deep baritone note that never wavers. Focus on the texture of the water in the channel again. It is mesmerizing. The moonlight catches the ripples. They look like silver snakes slithering over each other. Endless snakes. You feel a sense of heaviness in your legs. The sound of the water is acting like a lullaby. It is washing away your thoughts. Rush, flow. There is nothing to do here. The water does all the work. It falls, it flows, it fills. You look at the moss growing on the north side of the stone tank. It is thick and velvety. It drinks the spray from the water. It is a deep, lush green, almost black in the night. It is soft. If you were to touch it, your finger would sink in. A bat flits past the tower. It is hunting insects attracted to the moisture. It dives, turns, and vanishes into the dark. It is silent. You turn your attention back to the lead pipes. They are dull gray. They look heavy. They are the veins of the camp. The vibration of the floor makes your feet tingle slightly. It is a massage for the soles of your feet. You take a deep breath of the misty air. It is cool and hydrating in your lungs. Slowly, you turn to climb back down the ladder. Step creak. Step creak. As you descend, the roar of the water becomes muffled by the stone walls. It changes from a loud, rushing sound to a dull, distant thrum. When you reach the ground, the vibration is still there in the earth, but fainter. You put your hand on the wall of the tower one last time. It is cold and wet. You walk away. The sound of the water follows you for a few paces, then fades into the background noise of the night wind. The tower stands behind you, a dark monolith of flowing water, a machine of gravity. You are back on the Via Sagularis, the perimeter road. The gravel crunches under your feet. Crunch, crunch, crunch. You are walking towards the residential blocks again. The silence of the streets feels different now. It feels drier. The night is moving on. The moon is lower. The shadows are longer. The camp is sinking deeper into its rest. And you are sinking with it. You have walked the perimeter, seen the water, and smelled the grain. Now you return to the barracks blocks. But this time, you do not go to the small, crowded rooms of the common soldiers. You walk to the end of the building, to the head of the block. Here, the structure is larger. It takes up the entire width of the building. This is the residence of the Centurion. The door is heavier than the others. It is made of seasoned oak, darkened with age and oil. There is no gap at the bottom for drafts. It fits the frame perfectly. Push the door open. It swings inward on iron hinges that have been greased with animal fat. They make no sound. Silence. You step inside. The air here smells different than the soldiers' room. There is no smell of 8 men, no smell of sweat and crowded bodies. Instead, it smells of beeswax polish, old leather, and a faint, lingering trace of imported wine. It is the smell of authority and solitude. The room is spacious. It is L-shaped. You are in the office area first. The floor is not dirt. It is covered with wooden planks, sanded smooth. Your sandals make a hollow, dignified sound on the wood. Tug, tug, tug. A desk sits near the window. It is a sturdy piece of furniture, carved with simple geometric patterns on the legs. On the desk, the tools of administration are laid out with military precision. Look at the wax tablet. It is closed. The 2 wooden halves are tied together with a leather string. Inside, orders are written, or perhaps a letter to a family member far away. But now it is just a wooden rectangle. Next to it lies a seal ring. It is heavy, made of gold. The stone set into it is a carnelian, an orange-red gem. It catches the moonlight coming through the shutter. The engraving on the stone is tiny, perhaps a lion or the god Mars. It is too dark to tell. It sits there, cold and hard. It is the signature of the man who sleeps in the next room. Walk past the desk. In the corner, leaning against the wall, is a stick, but it is not just a stick. It is the vitis, the vine staff. It is made from the gnarled branch of a grapevine. It is twisted, knotted, and tough. It is about 3 feet long. Look at the texture of the wood. It is polished by the grip of the centurion's hand. The knots are smooth. This piece of wood is the symbol of his power. It is the tool of discipline. During the day, it is feared. Tonight, it is just a piece of dead plant. A stillness. A spider has begun to spin a web between the top of the vine staff and the wall. A single thread of silk glints in the dark. The spider moves slowly. It does not know that this stick commands 80 men. To the spider, it is just a convenient anchor point. Move into the sleeping alcove. Here there is a real bed. It is not a bunk. It is a lectus. It has a headboard and a footboard. The frame is wood inlaid with small pieces of bone. The mattress is not stuffed with straw but with wool batting. It is soft. It does not rustle when the sleeper moves. The centurion lies there. He is a man of maybe 45 years. His face is a map of the empire. There is a scar running through his eyebrow, a souvenir from a campaign in the north. Another scar on his chin. In the daylight, he looks formidable. In his sleep, he looks merely tired. His breathing is heavy, a low rumble in his chest. Rumble, wheeze, rumble. He sleeps on his side. One arm is thrown over the blanket. His hand is open, fingers curled slightly. The skin of his hand is rough, calloused, and stained with the day's work. On a low stool beside the bed sits his helmet. It is different from the others. It has a transverse crest box, a metal holder that runs from ear to ear. The crest itself, made of horsehair and dyed red, has been removed for the night and laid flat on the shelf to keep it straight. Look at the helmet. It is silvered, coated in tin to make it shine. Even in the dark, it has a ghostly, pale glow. The cheek guards are folded in. The neck guard is wide. It watches over him like a metal skull. Under the bed, you can see a pair of boots. They are not the heavy marching sandals caligy of the rank and file. These are enclosed boots made of softer leather. They are sitting side by side, toes pointing out. They look like they are waiting for feet. The room is warmer than the barracks. In the corner, there is a bronze brazier. The coals have turned to gray ash, but if you hold your hand over it, a faint column of heat is still rising. Warmth. On the wall hangs a shelf. On the shelf there are personal items. A small statue of a household god, a lar made of bronze. It is only 3 inches tall. A small clay cup. A silver spoon. These are the small luxuries of a career soldier. The silence here is heavy. It is a lonely silence. The centurion does not have the comfort of his comrades breathing around him. He sleeps alone with his responsibility. He shifts in his bed. The wooden frame creaks. Kriyak. He pulls the heavy wool blanket up to his shoulder. He mutters something. A name, a command. It is lost in the folds of the pillow. The pillow is linen filled with feathers. It is white. His head sinks into it. You look at the floor near the bed. There is a rug. It is a sheepskin, the fleece thick and white. It is there to keep his feet warm when he wakes up on cold mornings. It looks like a patch of snow on the wooden floor. The moonlight shifts. A beam of light travels across the floor, climbs the leg of the table, and touches the vine staff. For a moment, the twisted wood is illuminated. You can see the deep grain, the cracks of age. Then the light moves on. The centurion sighs. It is a deep, long exhale. It sounds like a tire deflating. The tension leaves his body. His brow unfurrows. For a few hours, he is not a commander. He is just a man. You notice a chest at the foot of the bed. It is bound with iron straps. Inside, presumably, is his pay, his decorative fallery medals, perhaps a good tunic for special occasions. The chest is locked. The key is likely around his neck on a leather thong. The room feels settled. There is no dust floating in the air here. The maid has swept it clean. The stillness is absolute. You feel like an intruder in this private sanctuary. This is the only place in the camp where a man can be truly alone. You step back towards the office area. You look at the seal ring on the desk one last time. It is dormant power. You walk to the heavy oak door. You open it. Silence. You step out. You pull the door closed. It clicks shut. Click. You are back in the alleyway. The wind hits you. The smell of the camp returns. Smoke, earth, distant horses. The centurion is sealed away again in his box of quiet luxury. You walk away from the head of the block, back down the length of the barracks where the common soldiers sleep. The contrast is sharp, from the silence of the one to the murmurs of the many. The night continues its slow march. The stars are wheeling overhead. The Great Bear has dipped lower towards the horizon. You are walking on the gravel again. Crunch, crunch, crunch. The sound is familiar now. It is the soundtrack of your journey. You head towards the Eastern Gate area, looking for the next pocket of stillness in this city of war. You leave the area of the barracks and the officers' quarters. You step onto the Via Praetoria, the wide main road that leads directly to the front of the fortress. The road is broad and straight, paved with large, flat stones that fit together like a puzzle. In the moonlight, the road looks like a silver river of rock flowing towards the northern wall. Walk towards the gate, the Porta Praetoria. It looms ahead, a massive shadow against the sky. It is flanked by two square towers that rise high above the walls. The structure is imposing, built to intimidate, but tonight it is just a shape. It is a silhouette of authority. As you get closer, you enter the shadow of the gatehouse. The air here is colder. The stone walls funnel the wind, creating a constant low draft that blows through the archway. It is a tunnel of air. The great wooden gates are closed. They are colossal. Two doors, each 15 feet high, made of seasoned oak planks that are 4 inches thick. They are bound with iron bands that run horizontally across the wood. Walk up to the gates, touch the wood. It is rough and weathered. You can feel the deep grooves of the grain. It feels like the bark of an ancient tree, but harder. It is wood that has turned into a wall. The gates are locked. A massive timber beam, the Sierra, spans the width of the entrance, resting in deep sockets cut into the stone on either side. It holds the doors shut against the world. It is a log of wood that has not moved since sunset. It will not move until sunrise. To the right of the archway, there is a small door leading into the ground floor guardroom of the tower. A faint yellow light spills out from underneath the door frame. Push the door. It is heavy, but it opens. Inside, the room is small and square. The walls are bare stone. The ceiling is a barrel vault of brick. The acoustics are hollow. 2 soldiers are here. They are the gatekeepers. They are not standing at attention. There is no one to impress. They are sitting on wooden stools on opposite sides of a small, low table. Between them lays a game board. It is a grid scratched into a slab of limestone. The lines are crooked, carved by a knife point long ago. On the grid sit the playing pieces. They are small, round counters. Some are made of white bone, polished smooth. Others are made of dark glass or black stone. This is Ludus Latrunculorum, the game of mercenaries. It is a game of strategy, a game of slow encirclement. Watch the game. The soldier on the left is older with a thick beard. He stares at the board. His hand hovers over a white piece. He does not move it yet. He is thinking. He is calculating the angles. There is no clock. There is no rush. He breathes in slowly through his nose. Inhale, he holds the breath. He breathes out. Exhale. His finger descends. He touches the piece. It is a small disc of bone. He slides it 1 square forward. Scrape. The sound of the bone rubbing against the stone is dry and distinct. It is the only sound in the room. He removes his hand. He leans back. He crosses his arms. The soldier on the right is younger. He looks at the new position. He rubs his chin. The stubble on his jaw makes a rasping sound against his thumb. Rasp, rasp. He looks at the board, he looks at the lamp, he looks back at the board. The oil lamp sits on a shelf niche in the wall. The flame is small and steady. It casts long, distorted shadows of the men onto the curved ceiling. The shadows look like giants hunched over a valley. The younger soldier reaches out. He picks up a black glass piece. He holds it between his thumb and forefinger. He turns it over. The glass is cool and smooth. It catches the lamplight, flashing a tiny reflection of the flame. He places it on the board. Click. The move is made. Silence returns. The room smells of burning oil and the cold dampness of the stone floor. There is a brazier in the corner, but the fire has burned down to a bed of glowing red coals. Occasionally, a coal shifts. Pop, hiss. A tiny spark flies up and dies in the air. You look at the walls of the guardroom. There are racks for weapons. 2 spears lean against the wall. Their iron tips are dark. A shield hangs on a peg. The leather cover on the shield is worn at the edges. These men are the filter of the camp. Everything that comes in or goes out must pass them. But tonight, nothing is coming in. Nothing is going out. The road outside is empty. The road inside is empty. They are guarding the silence. The older soldier reaches for a water skin hanging from his belt. He uncorks it. He takes a drink. Glug, glug. He wipes his mouth with the back of his hand. He corks the skin. He looks at the board again. He moves another white piece. Scrape. This is how the night passes. 1 move every 5 minutes. It is a way to stay awake without spending energy. It is a meditation on geometry. You turn away from the game and look at the small window slit in the thick wall. It faces outward, towards the wilderness beyond the camp. Walk over to it. The wall is 3 feet thick. You have to lean into the embrasure to see out. Outside the moat, the fossa, is a dark trench in the ground. Beyond it, the cleared ground creates a buffer zone, and beyond that, the tree line. The trees are a black wall. They do not move. There is no wind out there right now. It is a painting of a forest frozen in time. Somewhere in those trees, an owl hoots. Hoot, hoo, hoo. The sound is mournful and distant. It travels through the cold air, passes over the moat, passes through the window slit, and enters the guardroom. The soldiers do not react. They have heard it 1,000 times. It is just the night talking to itself. You pull back from the window. The stone frame is freezing against your cheek. Inside the room, the younger soldier captures a piece. He slides 2 of his black stones around a white one. He picks up the white bone disc. He holds it in his palm for a moment, weighing it. Then he sets it aside on the table. Clack. The pile of captured pieces grows, slowly. You look at the floor. It is paved with flagstones. In the corner there is a small bundle of straw, perhaps swept there and forgotten. It sits in the shadow, a small chaotic shape in a room of hard lines. The heavy wooden beam that bars the main gate is visible through a small archway that connects the guardroom to the gate tunnel. You walk over and look at it again. It is immense. It is the spine of the defense. You can see the iron handle used to lift it. The iron is polished from use, but tonight gravity holds it down. It rests in its cradle of stone. You feel the weight of the gate, tons of wood and iron. It is a barrier that creates safety. Because of this gate, the men in the barracks can sleep. Because of this gate, the baker can let his dough rise. The gate is a heavy eyelid, closed for the night. You return to the guardroom. The soldiers are still staring at the board. The game has stalled again. The older man is scratching his head. Scritch and scritch. He is in no hurry. The night is long. If he finishes this game, he just has to start another one. So he stretches this one out. He savors the boredom. You feel the slow pulse of the room. Move, wait, move, wait. It is a rhythm that slows your own heart rate. You watch the dust motes floating near the lamp. They move in slow, lazy circles. The younger soldier yawns. He does not cover his mouth. It is a wide, silent yawn that scrunches up his eyes. He shakes his head to clear the drowsiness. He rests his elbows on his knees and his chin in his hands. He stares at the grid lines on the stone. The world has shrunk down to this 8x8 grid of limestone. The empire, the emperor, the wars, they are all far away. There is only the white piece and the black piece. You decide to leave them to their stalemate. You push the door open. Kriuk. You step back out into the wind tunnel of the archway. The cold air rushes past you again. You close the door. The strip of yellow light remains at the bottom, a thin line of warmth in the dark stone. You walk away from the gate, back down the Via Praetoria. Your back is to the wilderness. You are walking deeper into the safety of the grid. The stones of the road are pale and smooth. You follow them, 1 step, 2 steps. The fortress is a sleeping giant, and you are walking down its spine. You turn away from the austere, stone-faced reality of the North Gate. You walk back down the main road, past the rows of sleeping barracks. But this time, you turn towards a different section of the central block. You are approaching the Praetorium, the private residence of the fortress commander, the legatus. This is a house built within the walls of a camp. It is an island of Roman civilization in the middle of a military machine. As you approach the entrance, the architecture changes. The rough timber and utilitarian stone give way to plastered walls painted in panels of deep red and ochre. The door is not a defensive barrier like the gate. It is a domestic entrance. It is tall, framed by 2 limestone columns. It is unlocked, guarded only by the silence of the hour. Step inside. You are in the atrium first. It is a large, square reception hall. The roof is high and open in the center, the compluvium. Beneath the opening is a shallow pool, the impluvium, designed to catch rainwater. Tonight there is no rain. The square of water is a perfect mirror reflecting the square of the night sky above. 4 stars are trapped in the reflection. They shimmer on the black surface. Walk past the pool. Your footsteps change sound. You are no longer walking on packed earth or rough planks. You are walking on a mosaic. Look down at the floor. In the moonlight, it is a grayscale masterpiece. Thousands of tiny cubes of stone tesserae have been set into fresh mortar to create a picture. Trace the pattern with your eyes. It is a geometric border, a Greek key design, a line that turns in on itself over and over again. Right down, left up, right. The pattern repeats around the entire room. It is flawless. It is endless. It is a maze for the eye to get lost in. Move deeper into the house. You enter the peristylium, the garden courtyard. This is the heart of the residence. It is an open-air garden surrounded by a covered walkway with columns on all 4 sides. The air here is sweet. It does not smell of horses or iron or unwashed men. It smells of damp soil, green leaves, and the faint, lingering perfume of roses. Walk slowly along the colonnade. The columns are smooth, coated in white plaster to look like marble. They glow softly in the dark. In the center of the garden, nature has been tamed. There are low hedges of boxwood clipped into sharp, rectangular shapes. They look like little green walls. They are dark and dense. There are rose bushes. The flowers are asleep. The petals are curled tight against the night air. You can see the dark shapes of the blooms, some heavy and nodding on their stems. A gentle breeze stirs the leaves of a small laurel tree in the corner. Rustle, shhh, rustle. The sound is soft, like silk rubbing against silk. In the center of the garden stands a fountain. It is not like the industrial roar of the water tower. This is a decorative piece, a small bronze statue of a boy holding a goose. Water trickles from the goose's beak. Drip, trickle, splash. The sound is delicate. It is a tinkling music, light and airy. The water falls into a small circular basin. The ripples expand outward, hit the rim, and bounce back, creating a complex interference pattern on the surface. Sit on a marble bench between two columns. The stone is smooth and cool. It feels solid beneath you. You look across the garden. On the opposite wall, there is a fresco, a painting on the plaster. It depicts a landscape. Green trees, blue sky, birds flying. In the dark, the colors are muted. The trees look gray, the sky looks like slate. It is a ghost garden reflecting the real garden. The silence here is different. It is the silence of luxury. It is a silence that feels expensive. The commander is asleep in one of the rooms off the courtyard. He sleeps on a bed with turned ivory legs under coverlets of imported purple wool. You do not hear him. The walls here are thick, and the doors are heavy drapes of velvet. You are alone with the garden. A moth lands on the white plaster of the column next to you. Its wings are patterned like tree bark. It sits perfectly still. It is resting. You look at the mosaic floor of the walkway again. Here, the pattern is different. It depicts vines and grapes. The stone vines twist and turn. You follow a single vine stem with your eyes. It winds around a corner, splits into two, curls around a bunch of stone grapes, and continues. It is a path that goes nowhere. It is just decoration. It exists to be beautiful and to be walked upon. The air is still. The flame of a single oil lamp left burning on a pedestal stands perfectly upright. It does not flicker. It is a teardrop of fire suspended in the dark. The smell of the boxwood hedges is green and sharp. It reminds you of rain. You lean your head back against the column. You close your eyes. You listen to the fountain again. Trickle, splash. It is a sound that suggests peace. It suggests that there are no enemies at the gate, that there is water to waste on beauty. You feel a deep sense of calm. The tension of the guardroom, the heat of the bakery, the cold of the wall, it all feels very far away. Here, there is only the garden. A petal falls from one of the roses. It drifts down slowly. Flutter, flutter. It lands on the dirt, soft. It is a tiny event. No one else saw it, only you. The shadows of the columns stretch across the garden floor as the moon moves. They look like the bars of a sundial, marking the passage of the night. But there are no numbers, just the slow creep of the shadow from the hedge to the fountain. You stand up, you walk to the edge of the covered walkway. You reach out and touch the leaf of the laurel tree. It is waxy and cool. It is stiff. It is real. You look up at the square of sky framed by the roof. It is a window into the universe. The stars are bright and distant. You feel the separation between this house and the rest of the camp. Outside, there is discipline and mud. Inside, there is art and geometry. But even here, the routine is absolute. The garden grows in rows. The water falls in a cycle. The mosaic repeats its pattern. It is a beautiful boredom. You turn to leave. Your sandals click on the stone cubes of the floor. Click, click, click. You walk back through the atrium, past the reflecting pool. The stars in the water do not move. You step out of the heavy door. You leave the smell of roses behind. You are back on the street. The smell of dust returns. The view of the wooden barracks returns. You have stepped out of the dream and back into the machine. The fortress stretches out before you, dark and silent. You continue your walk. You leave the scent of the roses and the luxury of the commander's house. You walk back across the courtyard of the headquarters, the Principia. The moon has shifted enough that the shadows of the columns have rotated, stretching long and thin towards the east. Your destination lies directly ahead, in the center of the rear range of buildings. It is the most sacred place in the entire fortress. It is the Eads, the shrine of the standards. The entrance is not a door, but a wide archway protected by a heavy iron grille. Through the bars, you can see a faint, warm glow. The gate is locked, but in our journey, the iron bars dissolve like mist. Step through. You are now standing on holy ground. The floor is raised slightly above the level of the courtyard. It is paved with marble, not local stone. The marble is veined with gray and white, cold and smooth as ice. The room is high-ceilinged, ending in a semicircular apse. The air here is thick and heavy. It does not smell of the outside world. It smells of old frankincense burnt hours ago, leaving a lingering, sweet, resinous haze. It smells of polished metal and expensive oil. In the center of the apse, on a raised stone platform, they stand, the silent army of gold and silver. These are the Signa, the standards of the Legion. Look at the center one, the Aquila, the eagle. It sits atop a tall pole made of polished wood. The bird is cast from solid gold. It is not a large bird, but it radiates an immense weight. Its wings are raised as if it is about to take flight, but it never does. It has been frozen in that moment of takeoff for 50 years. The light comes from two hanging lamps on either side of the altar. The flames are low. They cast a flickering orange light that makes the gold of the eagle seem to ripple. Glimmer, fade, glimmer. Look closely at the feathers of the eagle. Each one has been chased by a master goldsmith. The lines are sharp. The light catches the ridge of a wing feather and runs down it like liquid fire. The bird's head is turned to the right. Its beak is open in a silent cry, but there is no sound, only the hush of the shrine. Below the eagle on the pole are the lightning bolts of Jupiter. They are silver. They contrast with the gold. They are cold and sharp. To the left and right of the eagle stand the other standards, the Signa. These are poles adorned with metal discs, the Phalleri. Each disc represents a cohort or an honor won by the unit. Count the discs. 1, 2, 3, 4. They are stacked vertically. They are made of silver and bronze. In the dim light, they look like a column of moons. On top of one pole is a silver hand, the Manus. It is an open palm, fingers extending upwards. It represents the oath of loyalty. The hand is life-sized. It looks pale and ghostly in the dark. It reaches for a sky it cannot see. Reach, hold. The standards are leaning slightly against a wooden rack. The base of each pole is spiked, resting in a slot in the stone floor. They are heavy. They lean there like tired soldiers resting their spears. There are ribbons tied to the shafts of the standards. They are made of red silk, dyed with expensive Tyrian purple. They hang limp and motionless. There is no draft in this room. The air is perfectly still. The ribbons fall in straight, vertical lines. A stillness. At the foot of the platform is a small altar. A brazier sits there. The charcoal is mostly ash now, a pile of gray dust. But a thin trail of smoke still rises from a single grain of incense that hasn't fully burned. Watch the smoke. It rises in a straight line for a foot, then curls into a delicate spiral. It twists and turns, gray against the dark stone wall. It is the only thing moving in the room. Spiral drift, vanish. Standing guard in the shadows to the side of the altar is the signifer, the standard bearer. He is the guardian of the gold. He is not asleep, but he is barely moving. He stands at ease, his hands resting on his belt. He is wearing a wolf skin over his helmet, the paws tied across his chest. The fur of the wolf is dark and coarse. He is staring at the flame of the lamp. He has been staring at it for an hour. His eyes are glazed. He is in a trance of boredom. He listens to the silence. He hears the wax of the candle melting. Drip. He hears the settling of the building. Tick. He shifts his weight from his left foot to his right foot. Shift. The leather of his boots creaks softly. Creak. The sound is loud in the small, vaulted space. He stops moving. Silence rushes back in. Beneath the floor where you stand is a trapdoor. It leads to the aerarium, the vault where the Legion's money is kept. The soldiers' savings are down there in sacks of silver denarii. The standards guard the money. The money anchors the standards. You can feel the presence of the silver beneath your feet. A cold, heavy mass of metal sleeping in the earth. The room feels timeless. If you were to come back here in 100 years at this exact hour, it would look exactly the same. The eagle would still be wings up. The hand would still be reaching. The smoke would still be drifting. Focus on the texture of the stone wall behind the standards. It is rough-hewn sandstone. It absorbs the light. It makes the gold in front of it shine even brighter by contrast. A spider descends from the ceiling, lowering itself on a thread towards the altar. It hangs suspended near the silver hand. It spins slowly. The guard does not see it. He is looking through it. The smell of the incense is hypnotic. It is a heavy, sacred smell that slows down the heart. It makes you feel like you should whisper, even though there is no one to talk to. You walk closer to the eagle. You are close enough to see your own reflection in the polished breast of the bird. Your face is distorted, dark and shadowy in the gold. The metal is cold. If you were to touch it, it would not feel like a living bird. It would feel like a statue. It is an object of worship, stripped of life to become eternal. The silence here is not empty. It is a heavy silence. It is a silence filled with the weight of oaths and history. Every dent in the silver discs tells a story of a long march or a boring winter. The guard blinks, blink. His eyelashes flutter. He takes a deep breath. His chest rises under the wolf skin. Inhale, he exhales, exhale. He is waiting for the dawn, but the dawn is far away. You look at the wreaths of laurel leaves carved into the stone of the altar. They are stone leaves. They will never wither. They will never turn brown. They are stuck in a permanent spring. The atmosphere is dense. You feel like you are underwater. The air presses against your eardrums. You step back. You do not turn your back on the standards. You back away slowly. Step, slide. Your sandals on the marble make a soft, whispering sound. You reach the iron grill. You step back out into the courtyard. The air outside feels thin and empty compared to the rich, incense-laden air of the shrine. You look back through the bars. The gold eagle glimmers one last time in the darkness, a spark of light on a metal wing. A glimmer, then only shadows. You turn away. You are back in the secular world, the world of stone and wood and dirt. You walk towards the side exit of the headquarters. You are moving towards the residential streets again. The night feels deeper now. The moon is beginning to set. The shadows are merging together into a single blanket of darkness. You walk on. You step away from the spiritual weight of the shrine and the administrative precision of the headquarters. You slip out a side exit and find yourself in a different kind of space. You are now in the narrow gaps between the buildings, the alleyways. Here, the grand geometry of the main roads disappears. The space is tight. The walls of the barracks loom high on either side, blocking out most of the sky. The moon is now low enough that its light does not reach down here. You are walking in a canyon of shadow. The ground under your feet changes. It is no longer the paved stone of the main street or the clean gravel of the perimeter track. Here, the ground is packed earth, turned slightly to mud by the dampness of the night. Squish and step, squish, step. It is a soft sound. Your sandals sink slightly into the clay. It feels yielding and heavy. Down the center of this narrow passage runs a small, open gutter. It is a shallow trench lined with wood. It carries the runoff from the roofs and the wash water from the day. Even now, in the driest part of the night, there is a trickle of water moving through it. Listen to it. It is not the clean rush of the aqueduct. It is a sluggish, thick sound. Gurgle, slip, gurgle. The water is dark and opaque. It moves slowly, carrying a leaf, a twig, a lost button. It winds its way around a stone that has fallen into the channel. The water bumps against the stone, divides, and rejoins on the other side. Bump flow. The smell here is earthy. It smells of wet clay, of rotting wood, and of cold charcoal ash that has been dumped from the braziers. It is the smell of the camp's backyard. It is not a bad smell, just a raw, organic one. You walk past the back wall of a centurion's block. The wall is made of wattle and daub, woven wooden strips covered in plaster. The plaster is cracked in places. You can see the texture of the weave underneath. A spider has built a home in one of the cracks. There is a wagon parked here, abandoned for the night. It is a heavy supply cart with two large wooden wheels. The wheels are caked with dried mud from a journey days ago. The mud has dried into hard, gray flakes. Under the wagon, in the deepest shadow, something moves. It is a dog, a camp mongrel. It is curled into a tight ball, its nose tucked under its tail to keep warm. It is a part of the camp's furniture as much as the wagon or the wall. It lifts its head as you pass. Its ears twitch. It looks at you with tired, amber eyes. It does not bark. It knows the rhythm of the camp. It knows you belong here. It lets out a soft sigh through its nose. HFFF. It rests its chin back on its paws. Its eyelids droop. It goes back to the business of sleeping. You look at the wheel of the wagon. The iron rim is rusted. A single drop of condensation hangs from the bottom of the rim. It grows heavy. It falls. Plop. It lands in a small puddle in the mud. The puddle ripples. The reflection of the wagon wheel in the water zigzags for a moment, then straightens out. Further down the alley, someone has left a clay jar outside a door. It is broken. A large shard is missing from the rim. It sits there, useless and forgotten. It is just another object in the dark. You reach out and touch the wall of the barrack on your left. It is cold and damp. The night mist has settled on everything. Your hand leaves a faint print on the wet plaster, which slowly fades as the moisture returns. The silence here feels enclosed. In the open streets, the silence stretches to the horizon. Here, it is trapped between the walls. It feels thicker. You can hear the wooden beams of the barracks contracting in the cold. Crack pop. It is the sound of the building settling its bones. Above you, the eaves of the roofs almost touch. A small slice of sky is visible, a river of black stars. The wind whistles softly through the gap between the roofs. Woo-woo. It is a lonely, hollow sound. You step over a pile of firewood stacked against a wall. The logs are dark cylinders. They smell of pine resin. The cut ends are pale circles in the gloom. You are moving through the intestines of the fortress. This is where the work happens during the day, the carrying, the dumping, the cleaning. But now it is just a corridor of shadows. A rat scuttles along the top of the wall. It moves fast, a blur of gray fur. It stops. It sniffs the air. It disappears into a hole in the thatch. It makes almost no sound, just the tiniest scratch of claws on wood. Scritching. You keep walking. The alley opens up slightly. You see a rain barrel standing under a downspout. It is full to the brim. The water surface is black and still. You stop and look into the barrel. You can see nothing but blackness. It is like looking into a deep well. The water smells metallic. You continue. The mud sucks at your heels. The rhythm of your walking is slow and heavy. Lift, sink. There is no urgency here. This is the slow lane of the camp. You pass a window with a shutter that is hanging loose. It taps gently against the frame in the breeze. Tap, tap, tap. It is a steady, metronomic beat. It counts the seconds of the night. You feel the dampness of the alley seeping into your clothes. It is a cool, clinging sensation. It makes you want to find a warm place. But you are just passing through. The dog back under the wagon kicks its leg in a dream. It is chasing a rabbit in its sleep. Thumping. Then it is still again. The alley ends. You step out onto a cross street. The space opens up. The sky expands. You take a breath of the freer air. Behind you, the alley remains a tunnel of dark, wet earth, a place where the discarded things of the day rest. The broken pot, the muddy wheel, the sleeping dog. They are all waiting for the sun to dry them out, but the sun is hours away. For now, they belong to the mud. You turn your face to the west. The moon is getting lower. The night is entering its final, longest phase. You walk on, leaving the mud behind, searching for the next quiet corner of the Roman night. You step out of the damp, muddy alleyway and onto the firmer ground of the side street. The mud clinging to your sandals slowly flakes off as you walk, returning to the dust. You are heading towards a low, sprawling timber building attached to one of the larger barrack blocks. This is the communal mess area. It is not a grand dining room for emperors. It is a functional space where men sit on benches to eat their rations when the weather is too foul to cook outside. Now, it is empty. Push the door open, it creaks. Krielak. The sound is long and mournful, echoing into the dark interior. You step inside. The room smells of old food. Not rotting food, but the ghost of meals past. It smells of bacon fat that has congealed. It smells of vinegar. It smells of stale bread crusts and garlic. It is a heavy, savory scent that hangs in the still air. There are rows of long wooden tables. They are rough-hewn, scarred by knives and stained by spilled wine. In the moonlight filtering through the high windows, the stains look like dark maps of unknown islands. Walk to the nearest table. Run your hand across the surface. It is greasy. A thin film of oil and animal fat coats the wood. It feels slick and cool under your fingertips. Slide, lift. There are crumbs scattered on the table. Tiny, hard pieces of biscuit. A mouse has missed these. They sit there like tiny boulders on a plane of wood. At the end of the table stands a large clay pitcher. It is empty, tilted. Hollow thud. It rolls slightly on its base, then settles back. It is just dry clay now. The benches are simple planks of wood on trestles. Some are crooked. One is tipped over on its side, lying on the floor like a fallen soldier. No one has bothered to pick it up. It rests there, legs in the air, waiting for the morning cleanup. In the center of the room is a hearth. It is cold. The fire went out hours ago. There is a pile of white ash in the center. It looks like a small, gray mountain. Poke the ash with a stick lying nearby. Poof! A small cloud of gray dust rises. It hangs in the air for a second, then slowly drifts down. There is no heat left. The stone circle around the hearth is cold. On a shelf along the wall there are stacks of wooden bowls. They are not stacked neatly. They lean precariously. One bowl is chipped at the rim. Another is stained dark brown from years of stew. They are the vessels of sustenance, now empty and sleeping. A fly buzzes somewhere in the room. It is a slow, lazy sound. Bzz-zz-zz-zz-zz-zz. It lands on the table. It walks a few inches. It stops. It rubs its front legs together. It is cleaning itself in the dark. Rub, rub. Then it flies off again, disappearing into the shadows of the rafters. The floor is covered in sawdust to soak up spills. It is soft under your feet. It deadens the sound of your walking. Hush, hush. You can see a ladle hanging from a hook. It is made of iron. It swings very slightly, perhaps from the draft of the door you opened. Swing, back. It is a pendulum, marking the time until breakfast. There is a sense of satisfied exhaustion in this room. Hundreds of men have eaten here. They have filled their bellies and gone to sleep. The room has done its job. Now it rests. You sit down on one of the benches. It wobbles slightly. You find your balance. You lean your elbows on the greasy table. You rest your chin in your hands. You look at the empty space. It is boring. It is wonderfully boring. There is no shouting, no clattering of spoons, no chewing, just the silence of empty bowls. A rat emerges from a hole in the corner. It is bolder than the mouse. It trots across the floor. Its claws make a tiny clicking sound on the wood where the sawdust is thin. Click, click, click. It finds a piece of dropped cheese rind near the hearth. It grabs it. It turns and runs back to its hole. The tail whips around the corner. Gone. The room does not react. The table stands still. The bowls wait. You look at the window. A spider web covers the corner of the frame. It is thick with dust. It catches the moonlight and looks like a piece of gray lace. The air is stale. It tastes of cold roast pork. It sits heavy in your lungs. You close your eyes. You can imagine the noise of the day, the laughter, the complaints about the grain ration, the splash of wine, but it is all gone. The silence has scrubbed it away. There is nothing to eat here. There is nothing to do here. There is only the memory of food. You stand up. The bench scrapes against the floor. Scrape. The sound is harsh. You wince. You wait for the silence to return. It does instantly. You walk towards the door. You pass a barrel of vinegar. It smells sharp and acidic. It clears your nose. You push the door open again. Kriyak. You step out. The fresh night air hits you. It washes away the smell of grease. You take a deep breath. The mess hall sits behind you, a dark box of smells and crumbs. You are back under the sky. The stars are still there. The camp is still sleeping. You walk away, your stomach full of nothing but the quiet night. You walk away from the lingering smell of food in the mess hall. The night air cleanses your palate. You are moving deeper into the logistical heart of the camp, towards a long stone building that sits squat and heavy near the workshops. This is the armamentarium, the armory. It is a fortress within a fortress. The walls here are thicker. The windows are narrow slits barred with iron. The door is reinforced with bronze plates. It is locked tight. But imagine we can slip through the keyhole, sliding into the cool, dark interior. The silence here is sharper than in the barracks. It is a metallic silence. The room is vast. It stretches out into the gloom, a cavern of organized violence that has been put to sleep. The first thing you notice is the smell. It is distinct. It smells of lanolin oil, cold iron, tanned leather, and beeswax. It is a clean, chemical smell. It preserves, it protects. Stand in the center of the main aisle. To your left and right are the racks. They are filled with pila, the heavy javelins of the legion. Look at them, there are thousands. They stand upright in wooden frames, arranged in perfect rows. Row after row after row. They look like a forest of dead trees stripped of their branches. The wooden shafts are made of ash, pale and smooth. The long iron shanks reach upwards, disappearing into the shadows of the ceiling. The tips are sharp, but in the darkness they are just dull gray points. Walk slowly down the aisle. Tap, tap, tap. Your sandals echo on the stone floor. You stop to look at a single pilum. You focus on the point where the iron meets the wood. It is joined by a wooden peg. It is a simple mechanism. It is static. It is waiting. The wood of the shaft is polished by the hands of soldiers who are now asleep. It holds the memory of their grip, but tonight, it holds nothing but the air. Move further in. You come to the section of the shields, the scuda. They are stored on shelves, stacked horizontally. They are not the bright, painted shields you see on parade. They are covered in their leather marching covers to protect them from the damp. The covers are made of goat skin. They are brown and rough. They are tied tight with drawstrings. Tight, secure. The shields look like large, curved packages. They are heavy. If you were to lift one, you would feel the weight of the plywood layers, the bronze rim, the iron boss in the center. But they sit there, row upon row, heavy and immobile. A shelf groans slightly under the weight. Creak. It settles. The sound dies instantly. There is a table in the center of the room used for inspection. On it lies a single sword, a gladius, left out for cleaning. It is in its scabbard. The scabbard is wood covered in leather, framed in brass rings. The brass is dull in the moonlight. It does not shine. It has a matte, sleepy finish. Next to the sword is a pot of grease. The lid is off. The grease is white and thick like lard. A rag sits next to it, stained black with old oil. You touch the handle of the sword. It is made of bone, carved with grooves for the fingers. It is cold. It feels like a stone found in a riverbed. It is inanimate. Without a hand to hold it, it is just a piece of metal and bone. The air in the armory is very still. There are no drafts here. The dust does not even float. It has all settled on the floor. A fine gray carpet of time. You walk to the back of the room. Here are the bundles of arrows for the archers. They are tied together in sheaves of 20. Focus on the fletching, the feathers at the end of the arrows. They are goose feathers. They are soft. If you brush your hand against them, they make a whispering sound. Swish and swish. They are gray and white. They are perfectly aligned. Thousands of feathers all sleeping in the dark. There are boxes of sling bullets, small almond-shaped pieces of lead. They are heaped in wooden crates. They look like gray pebbles. They are heavy and cold. They press down on each other. Press, wait, press. The organization of the room is hypnotic. Everything has a place. Everything is in its place. There is no chaos. The Romans have categorized war and put it on a shelf. You look up at the ceiling. Heavy beams of oak span the width of the hall. They are lost in shadow. A bat hangs upside down from one of the beams. It is wrapped in its wings. It is a small, dark fruit hanging from the wood. It sleeps. The temperature here is constant. The thick stone walls keep the heat of the day out and the cold of the night in. It is a refrigerator for weapons. You feel a sense of profound neutrality. These objects are not dangerous right now. They are just objects: wood, iron, leather, lead. You lean against a pillar. The stone is rough against your shoulder. You breathe in the oily air. It coats your throat. It is a heavy, industrial taste. You watch the shadows. The moon is passing over a slit window. A thin beam of light moves across the floor. It touches the bottom of a spear rack. It illuminates the wood for a minute. Then it moves on. Light, shadow, dark. The passage of time is marked only by the movement of the light. You imagine the quartermaster, the custos armorum. He has the key. He is sleeping in his bunk, dreaming of inventory lists. He knows exactly how many spears are in this room. He has counted them. 1,412. 1,413. Counting them is as boring as counting sheep. You push off from the pillar. You walk back towards the entrance. You pass the rows of shields again. They look like the shells of giant tortoises sleeping in a cave. You pass the forest of spears. They stand at attention, silent sentinels that never blink. You reach the door. You slip back out through the imaginary keyhole. The night air outside feels wild compared to the controlled atmosphere of the armory. It smells of grass and wind. You have left the silent iron behind. You stand on the gravel path. The crunch of your sandals sounds loud after the silence of the room. Crunch. You pause, you look at the heavy door. It is shut. It hides the weapons, it keeps the peace. You turn and walk away. The night is still deep. There are more places to visit, more silences to find. You head towards the open space of the training grounds. You leave the enclosed, oil-scented air of the armory and step out into the widest open space within the fortress walls. This is the campus, the parade ground. It is a vast rectangle of flat earth, cleared of every stone, every weed, and every distraction. In the daylight, this place is a chaotic storm of dust and shouting. It is where men learn to kill. But under the moon, it is a desert of silence. It is a flat, gray ocean of dirt that stretches out to the ramparts. The wind has more room here. It sweeps across the open ground without obstacle. Whoosh and whoosh. It picks up the fine dust from the surface of the field. The dust rises in low, ghostly clouds that drift knee-high and then settle back down. Rise, drift, settle. Walk out into the center of the field. You feel exposed here. The sky is huge above you. The stars look further away. You are a small point in a large emptiness. Dotted across the field are the poly. These are the training posts. They are thick trunks of oak, 6 feet high, buried deep into the ground. They are the silent enemies of the Legion. Walk up to one of the posts. In the moonlight, it looks like a tormented figure. It stands crooked, leaning slightly to the left from years of being battered. Look at the wood. It is destroyed. It is a landscape of violence. The surface is hacked, gouged, and splintered. Every inch of the wood bears the mark of a wooden training sword, the Rudies. Touch the wood, it is rough. It feels like a cheese grater. Splinters stick out at odd angles. They are dry and sharp. Rough, jagged. There is a deep notch near the top, where 1,000 recruits have practiced the head strike. There is a shredded patch near the middle, where they have practiced the body thrust. But tonight the post feels no pain. It stands there dumb and wooden. It is just a tree that has had a very hard life. It rests in the cool air. The sap has dried up long ago. It is a dead thing serving the living. You walk around the post. On the other side, the bark is still intact, facing away from the attackers. It is smooth and gray. A small beetle crawls up the bark. Crawl, stop. The beetle navigates the ridges of the bark. It is looking for a place to hide from the wind. It finds a small crack and wedges itself in. Safe. The ground around the post is different from the rest of the field. It is packed down hard, depressed by inches. This is where millions of feet have stomped. Left, right. The earth here is as hard as rock. It does not yield to your sandal. Thud. You look out at the other posts. There are dozens of them. They stand in staggered rows like a graveyard of stumps. They cast long, thin shadows across the dust. The shadows look like black fingers pointing towards the barracks. The silence here is vast. It is not the enclosed silence of a room. It is a windy silence. It rushes past your ears. Rush, rush. You can smell the dust. It is a dry mineral smell. It coats the back of your throat. It tastes of earth and old sweat. A tumbleweed, just a ball of dried grass and roots, rolls across the far end of the field. Roll, bounce, roll. It moves silently, pushed by the invisible hand of the wind. It catches on a stone, stops for a moment, then rolls on. It is the only traveler on the plain. You sit down at the base of the training post. You lean your back against the scarred wood. It is solid. It does not move. It anchors you in the middle of the open space. You look up at the moon. It is small and white. A cloud passes in front of it. The shadow of the cloud races across the field. You watch the darkness sweep towards you. It covers the first row of posts, then the second, then it covers you. The light dims. The world becomes gray and flat. Then the cloud passes. The light returns. The silver glow washes over the dust again. Light, dark, light. It is a slow strobe effect, played out over minutes. Far away near the stables, a horse whinnies. It is a faint sound carried by the wind. It sounds lonely, then it is gone. You pick up a handful of dirt, you squeeze it. It is dry powder. You open your hand, the wind takes the dirt. Scatter. It flies away like smoke. This place is the definition of emptiness. There is nothing here but the memory of effort. The sweat has evaporated. The shouts have faded. Only the wood remembers. You feel the cold of the ground seeping into your legs. It is a grounding sensation. You are connected to the earth. You close your eyes and listen to the wind again. It whistles slightly as it passes the jagged splinters of the post. A tiny, high-pitched flute note. Whistle. It is a sad, boring song. It plays on a loop. You feel very small here and very safe. The fortress walls surround this field on all sides. You are in the belly of the beast, and the beast is asleep. You stand up. You brush the dust from your tunic. It falls in a small cloud. You pat the wooden post, a gesture of respect for its endurance. Pat, pat. You turn and walk back towards the edge of the field. The open space feels like it is pushing you away, gently, back towards the shelter of the buildings. You look back one last time. The posts stand there, silent, broken, waiting for the morning that is still hours away. The dust settles, the wind blows. Nothing changes. You reach the gravel path again. You are leaving the void. You are heading back to the structures, back to the places where people live and sleep. You walk on, deeper into the night. You walk away from the empty expanse of the training ground. You approach the southern gate of the fortress. It is smaller than the main northern gate, less imposing. You slip through the pedestrian archway, nodding to the sleepy guard who barely lifts his head. You are now outside the stone walls. You have entered the vicus. This is the civilian settlement that clings to the walls of every Roman fortress like barnacles on a ship. Here, the streets are not straight. They wind and curve. The buildings are not made of uniform stone, but of timber, wattle, and mud. The air here smells different. It smells of domestic life. It smells of wood smoke, of refuse, of animals, and of damp earth. You navigate the narrow, muddy street. To your left is a tavern, closed and dark. To your right, a weaver's shop, silent. You stop in front of a low building with a wide, open front that has been boarded up for the night. You can smell the distinct, earthy scent of wet soil. This is the Figlina, the potter's workshop. Ceramics are the plastic of the Roman world. Every plate, every cup, every lamp, every roof tile starts here, in the mud. Find a gap in the wooden shutters and look inside. The room is shadowed and cool. It is filled with the smell of wet clay. It is a heavy, damp smell, primitive and grounding. It smells like a riverbank after the rain. In the center of the room sits the potter's wheel. It is a simple machine, a heavy flywheel made of stone near the ground, connected by an axle to a smaller wooden disc above. Look at the flywheel. It is massive. It is made of basalt. It is perfectly still. During the day, the potter kicks it, sending it spinning with a low, humming vibration. Thrum. But now gravity holds it fast. It is anchored to the earth. On the upper disc, there is a smear of dried gray clay, a ghost of the last pot thrown. It spirals out from the center, a frozen record of the spinning motion. Spiral stop. Against the back wall are the clay pits. These are wooden troughs filled with raw earth that has been mixed with water. It is covered with wet burlap sacks to keep the moisture in. The sacks are dark and heavy. They rise and fall slightly with the uneven surface of the clay underneath. They look like the hides of sleeping animals. If you were to lift the corner of a sack, you would see the clay. Gray, smooth, plastic. It is waiting for hands to shape it. It is a formless potential. It sleeps in the dark, heavy and wet. Damp, heavy. To the left are the drying shelves. This is where the finished pots go before they are fired. There are rows and rows of them. Look at the uniformity. 50 small bowls, all identical. They are the color of pale leather. They are leather, hard, dry enough to hold their shape, but still cool to the touch. They sit in perfect lines. Bowl, 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 bowl. Next shelf up, oil lamps. Hundreds of them. Small, oval shapes with 2 holes. One for the oil, one for the wick. They look like a colony of beetles resting on the wood. They are gray now. After the fire they will be orange, but tonight they are gray. A draft blows through a crack in the wall. It touches the drying clay. It helps the water evaporate, molecule by molecule. Evaporate, dry. Outside in the yard behind the shop stands the kiln, the oven. It is a dome of brick and clay, blackened by soot. It is cooling down from yesterday's firing. Walk around to the yard. The kiln radiates a gentle heat. You can feel it from 5 feet away. It is a comfortable warmth in the cool night. Place your hand near the brick wall of the kiln. It is still hot. The fire inside is dead, but the bricks hold the memory of the heat. They release it slowly back into the night. Radiate warm. Inside the kiln, sealed away in the dark, are the finished pots. They are cooling. As they cool, the clay contracts. Sometimes, if you listen very closely, you can hear a tiny sound from inside. Tink. It is the sound of a pot settling, a microscopic shift in the ceramic structure. Ping. It is a high, clear note, a song of the kiln. The yard is cluttered with stacks of wood, fuel for the fire, bundles of brushwood and logs. They are stacked high, leaning against the fence. They smell of dry pine needles. A bucket of water sits near the wheel. The water is murky, filled with clay slip. Ideally, the clay settles to the bottom, leaving clear water on top. But tonight, it is just a cloud of suspended earth. It is brown and opaque. A wooden rib, a tool for shaping the pots, lies on the workbench. It is worn smooth by years of friction against spinning clay. It is just a thin piece of wood, but it has shaped thousands of vessels. The potter is asleep in the loft above the shop. You can hear the floorboards creak above you as he turns over. Creak. He is dreaming of shapes, of amphorae and bowls, of the perfect curve. But down here the clay does not dream. It just sits, it waits. You look at a stack of failed pots in the corner. The wasters, pots that cracked or warped. They are piled up, broken shards and twisted shapes. They are the failures. They are silent too. They will be crushed down and used to pave the road. The silence in the workshop is heavy with moisture. It feels thick. It muffles sound. You watch a drop of water condense on the ceiling beam. It gathers. It grows heavy. It falls. Drip. It lands in the clay trough with a soft splat. The wet burlap absorbs it instantly. The rhythm of the shop is slow. Dig the clay, wet the clay, spin the clay, dry the clay, fire the clay. It is an ancient cycle. It happens every day. It is boring and essential. You lean against the door frame. You look at the rows of drying bowls again. They look like a crowd of people with no faces, just open mouths waiting to be filled. The heat from the kiln warms your back. The smell of the wet clay cools your face. It is a perfect balance. You feel the stillness of the earth. The clay came from the ground, and to the ground it has returned, but now it has a shape. You take a deep breath. The air is dusty but clean. You turn away from the workshop. You step back into the muddy street of the Vicus. The settlement is sleeping. The tavern is silent. The weaver is silent. The potter is silent. You walk on, your feet making soft sucking sounds in the mud, moving past the sleeping houses of the ordinary people who live in the shadow of the legions. Squish step. The night continues.